everyone. Welcome to the 11Alive 24/7 stream. Faith Jesse joining you here at 12:30. I hope you are having a wonderful Thursday. We have a great streaming show, hours on deck for you. We're monitoring stories all across our backyard, all across the nation, and of course the world. But we want to start with something happening in our backyard right now throughout this weekend. Let's bring in Miss Camilla Mute with HWPL Georgia. Thank you so much for being here, Camilla.
Yes, of course. I'm so happy to be here.
So,
Yes.
we have a really big exhibit happening at the supermarket for those who are
Yes.
familiar. I had the pleasure of joining you all last year for this. It's an art exhibit, and the focus is to eradicate violence out of the communities, the big focus of HWPL, Heavenly Culture, World Peace, Restoration of Light. We are one. Right?
That's right.
Camilla, tell me a little bit about what's going on today.
Yes.
And this week, it goes through this weekend,
Yeah,
correct?
all throughout the weekend. So, as you mentioned, last year we had City Bleed No More, and we were focusing more on really eradicating violence. As you know, there's a lot of the gun violence that's happening in our community. If you remember earlier this year, there was even the situation with Tiana Robinson, right, in Piedmont Park.
Yeah.
And still that case has not been resolved. So there's still a lot of the pain and a lot of the violence that our community is facing. And, we're here to put together events where we can talk about it, see how we can make a change and what difference that we can make. So this year, the theme is more so centered on revive, right? So really, how can we revive our communities through the peace initiatives that we're doing? There's still a lot of pain, there's still a lot of hurt that people are experiencing because of the violence or lack of housing, these different situations. So that's what we're tackling at this exhibit throughout this weekend.
Can you tell me a little bit about, for those who aren't familiar, first of all, the exhibit's happening at the supermarket. These are local artists on display.
Yes.
Is it students? Is it professional? Is it a mix?
We've got a mixture. We have professionals. We have Eric Nine. He's a influential muralist all across Atlanta. There's one of my pieces that I'm really excited about. It's a collage showing Atlanta, right? All of the different journeys that we've been through, even showing a breeze card and, what makes Atlanta Atlanta. So through this, we have artists who are really embracing the culture of Atlanta and really seeing how we can make it shine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the big portion of this is, like you said, the theme, Revive this year, City Bleed No More. It's tackling the issue of violence, especially youth violence in the community. The Tiana Robinson that you just brought up, we just talked about this in the newscast not long ago, just about the crime numbers. Crime numbers actually down, homicide numbers actually down. However, even one is too much, right?
Too much, yeah.
Even one is too much, and you have to have communities and organizations like HWPL who are touching people, meeting people where they are.
Exactly.
And that's what this is. There's also going to be a panel discussion this year.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about that?
So we're talking about from expression to action, because we don't want people to just come to the exhibit and, just watch or just see the art, but we want people to be moved, and we want to talk about how can we actually make this change possible. Because after looking at the art, we shouldn't just leave there and saying, oh, I like this piece, I'm going to hang it in my room, but we need to talk about, okay, what can I do as a member of this community to make a difference? So that's what we're talking about. How can we move from expression to action and really become those advocates in our own community?
Absolutely. And I really have to give a shout out to you, Ms. Kim, Myron, everybody, the whole team at HWPL of Georgia. For years, you all have been working on this. This is not something that you just come and go as you please, and a lot of you all have other jobs as well. So just thank you so much for all of the work that you're doing. Can you talk about some of those projects, those ongoing projects? Of course, school's about to get back in session in just under 2 weeks now, which is wild.
I know. Yeah, so this summer we had the Play for Peace initiative where we had over 200 kids all over Atlanta who came together in 10 different hotspots. So, we had the FIFA World Cup going on here in Atlanta. all the world was here, right, really watching Atlanta. So we wanted to also make a movement for peace, really showing people that Atlanta can be a city of peace. So, it was a really amazing initiative. We got the opportunity to get a governor proclamation to make Georgia into Youth Peace Month. Not only that, we also had Atlanta City Hall, who made Atlanta June Peace Month as well. So there's a lot of the support that's coming from different government officials, but we want to make this Georgia-wide. You know what our phrase is, right? Yes. Making Georgia from a peach state to a peace state. That's right. That's so, right. Really, like you mentioned, with the schools opening up this upcoming semester, we need to implement peace education in all different schools. So if you're watching this, if you're a board member of any education, if you really understand the power of education, we are asking for all people, right, to really come together and really see how we can make this movement possible. So a lot of our information regarding peace education is available at hwplgeorgia.org, and you can be able to see the curriculum, what we offer, and what difference it's made, not only in Georgia, but all across the world.
And I'll tell you what, Miss Camilla right here, she will get back to you very quickly if you reach out, so don't worry about that if you have questions. For those who are watching this interview right now, and I just want to leave them with something. If they have a young person in their life, maybe they live in a rough neighborhood, maybe they grew up in one, maybe they want to make a change, what is something that we can do today to help get to the goal of being a peace state?
Right. I say getting involved. There's a lot of opportunities and organizations and movements that's happening in Atlanta, but it can make a difference if only a few people are involved, right? So for the youth who are looking for how can they make a change, we have the exhibit all weekend long, right? Yes. You can come either...
Especially those artists out there,
exactly, too. Right? See what you can do. We have so many different opportunities on our Instagram, on our website. We want everybody to be involved. It doesn't matter what age, what background that you are. We have all kinds of opportunities to make sure that we all become peace advocates and have the opportunity to make a change in our community.
And just to clarify, so this is happening, multi-day event starting today, or starting yesterday?
Starting today.
Today. Today's the first day.
Yep.
Goes through Saturday.
Through Sunday.
Through Sunday.
Yes, ma'am.
Starts today, goes through Sunday at the supermarket. For those might be wondering, like myself last year, I was like, what supermarket? We went to Publix? The supermarket's actually a venue.
Yes, yeah.
Where is the supermarket located?
So it's easy to find because it's actually by Ponce de Leon, right? So Urban Outfitters, right over there by Virginia Highlands. So it's very easy to find. We have...
Very cool venue.
Yeah, very super cool. You see the art exhibit, but they also have different rooms with different experiences. So it's open for everyone to come.
Is it free?
So it's free.
Free and open.
Free and open. Yes.
To the community, to the supermarket. And you can actually, you could go to HWPL Georgia to get more information. You can also just Google the supermarket Atlanta.
Yes, yeah.
And you will find that address there. Come out, take your friends.
Please
I mean,
do.
it's a great example, especially if you appreciate art, if you're learning more about it, or simply just wanting to get more aligned with community partners who are trying to make this happen, make this change.
Yeah.
Get these guns off of the streets, make sure that kids are coming home.
Exactly. The title is City Bleed No More.
Yes.
So we are tired of the gun violence, and we need everyone to be a part of this so we can make a change together.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Ms. Camilla, thank you so much. It's always great to see you. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for the work that you and the whole team at HWPL Georgia are doing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Faith, for all your support in this work of peace. And everyone who's listening, let's do this together.
Let's do it together because why?
We are one.
All right, Ms. Camilla, thank you so much. We'll be posting this full interview online at 11alive.com. Let's come together and help turn Georgia from the peach state to the peace state. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the stream. Let's talk a little arts, a little theater, a big production headed to the Fox Theater. Spam-A-Lot, a cult classic, of course, a sense of humor. And one of the actors in the show actually grew up in Gainesville, Georgia. We are talking about Delaney Benson, growing up as the daughter of Jody Benson, a big name. Joe Ripley caught up with the actor to talk more about this production.
And I'm in the ensemble and I understudy the Lady of the Lake in Spamlot. My family moved to Gainesville, Georgia when I was about 5, and I lived here until 2019 when I went to college. So we grew up going to Atlanta, grew up going to the Fox. My first national tour experience was at the Fox, and I saw Wicked in 2006. And now it's kind of crazy to be back, 20 years later. So yeah, my family, I'm in my childhood home, which is so fun to be here for, the next week. So it's kind of bringing back all of the memories growing up. So this is based on Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the film, which is, an iconic film that has a cult following. And if you love it, you love it. And if you don't, then I don't know what you've been doing with your life. So basically it follows King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and they're called upon by God to find this Holy Grail. And upon searching for the Holy Grail, they meet a woman who lives in the lake. She just, his sword makes her just randomly appear. So she's in the picture. You meet people from Finland. There's the Knights of Ni, which is like an iconic little section of the movie. Then you go to France, and then we have a lot of tropes of France. We have, Cosette from Les Mis. We have the baker with ratatouille on his hat, like feeding the cheese. I play a French woman who is quite hairy, so I lift up my armpits and I have like inches of hair with a poodle, the trope of like, French people never shave, which I don't know if that's really true, but c'est la vie. So it's just kind of like there's a lot of breaking of the fourth wall, a lot of improvisational moments. And I think what's fun with this show specifically is there's certain parts of the script where it just says like insert improv here. So really the cast member, whoever's playing it, if it's the understudy, if it's who actually plays the part, they get to bring their own comedy to the show. And a lot of the comedy bits are city specific. So whether if it's like, a song that was made popular by someone who is from Georgia, or it has Georgia in the title, or if it's like a jingle of like, a lawyer that, plays on the radio. So like a lot of the actors are very smart and in tune with like where we're going next, and have like little booklets of like, oh, what's gonna land here in Atlanta, Georgia. So the great thing about that is it makes our show new every night. And as an actor on stage witnessing this, a lot of times we're caught by surprise because they don't, tell the whole company what they're doing. So we're kind of like not in on the joke, just like the audience. So we're kind of, at the same playing field where we're experiencing it for the first time. So I always kind of say like, I don't even really know what to expect in some moments because we're all caught off guard, but that's what comedy is all about. And, all of our people do such a great job of, reinvesting in new bits. And so it doesn't ever feel mundane, which I don't really think I've ever been a part of a show where it feels so new and exciting every night. So I feel like what audiences are going to get from this is just a lot of laughs, maybe some confusion of like, where are they now? Like they're in a mysterious forest. Now they're in France. Now we're in like a Vegas-y like Camelot number, and there's like showgirls. It's like it's hard to explain like the sequencing of events, because if I told you, without the context of the show, you'd be like, what is this? What is going on? But like, everyone that comes and sees it is like, this was hilarious. I was thoroughly entertained. Like, it's so fun. And it's just like a big Broadway musical. Like there's big dance numbers. There's, the 11 o'clock numbers. There's a tap number, like it's kind of got a little bit of everything for everyone. Like, I feel like there's things where, you can relate to at least one aspect, or if not all. So Yeah, it's very fun to be a part of. It's pretty surreal. I've auditioned, multiple times for theaters in Georgia, with this hometown connection, and nothing's gone my way, and that's totally fine. But it's kind of ironic that now my first, professional job in Georgia is at the Fox, at like the largest, theater in the area. So I'm excited for a lot of my family that hasn't seen me perform since high school, so this is pretty surreal for them too, that I'm performing at a stage that's in their backyard, and they don't have to travel to Spokane, Washington, or like Miami, Florida, and it's like it's very accessible to them. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, is for them to see the little girl that they saw growing up on stage, and now she's 25 and in her first national tour. So a lot of emotions are flowing. I think like stepping on the stage just when we even do our sound check, I feel like is going to give me goosebumps. But I feel like when the curtain goes down, like it's going to feel a sense of, such a sense of just joy. My parents, they met performing. So they, obviously ever since I've been alive, they've been, singing and dancing around the house. I've seen them do some concerts, and so I've been around this my whole life, and did community theater growing up, and I was in dance, and then I realized like I don't really like wearing tights. I don't really like wearing a bun, and I switched to soccer. So I played soccer for 9 years, and it wasn't until high school that I had to choose between theater and soccer because, of course, both their practices were at the same time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to choose theater. I feel like it brings a sense of community to everyone. And I feel like the companionship among theater people, is such a treat. So yeah, I think it was kind of an innate feeling just because I grew up in the sense, with performers, but luckily they never really enforced anything upon me, which I'm so grateful for. So they kind of just let me choose whatever path I wanted to take. And now I sing and dance and act for a living, which is fun. My mom always instilled this mantra into me. It's like, you're going to get 99 no's and one yes. And that one yes is going to change your life. I mean, in all honesty, since graduating, I've had great opportunities doing concerts and regional gigs. But within, all the gigs, there's those, 3 to 6 months of unemployment. So you have to find other things that bring you joy. So I have been a nanny for the past couple of years. And I think it's so important in this industry to not put your full identity in what you do. Find other passions, find things that bring you joy in your day-to-day life, even if it's just a hobby that you randomly take up. Because once you put your identity in, like, I am this performer, and if they don't like me, they not only think I'm not talented, but they don't want to work with me. And then you take everything personal. And then it becomes this battle of disappointment, right? Where it's like, they don't want me, Delaney, but there's only one me, but they still don't want me. And it's like this battle of, and you're just in this cycle. So I would say, whatever is meant for you will not pass you by. That's how I live. And I auditioned for hundreds of projects before Spamalot gave me the yes. And if, the random regional theater in Utah, which is great, if they would have said yes, I would have never been able to audition for this project. And now I'm here, and now I'm in my hometown performing. I'm seeing the country. I'm going to states and cities I've never been before, and they're paying me to see the country, so it's like, it's crazy how life works. And obviously you want to see the big picture. You want to sit here and be like, I'm going to dictate my life, and I want this and this and this, and that's never going to happen, right? Like, life is met with so many different twists and turns. And I would just say, and I'm telling myself this, every day, and I've been, I'm still getting rejections, I'm still auditioning, and I'm still getting no's, and I'm on this, first national tour of a Broadway revival. So it's like, you have to get to a place where you're confident and comfortable in who you are, what you bring to the table. And if you fit their piece of the puzzle, that's great. And if you're not a part of that intricate piece, and your gifts won't serve this project, then that's okay. Then it's saving you from being in an environment and having an opportunity that's not going to be 100% yours. So I think just shifting my mentality of like, it's not the end all be all, find other things that bring you joy. Then when you get that no, it's like, great, I'm not supposed to go to Sarasota, Florida for 4 months. And then your life goes on, and then I get to, find new opportunities. So yeah, I'm still learning everything every day. It doesn't, I don't stop learning. I don't stop growing just because I've met like one of my biggest goals, right, in my career. So yeah, every day is a new day, and I just kind of experience life and not like let life like dictate me, but like I get to dictate my own life, right? And I get to make these opportunities and say yes, and I can also say no. So yeah, I feel like it's an ongoing process, but I'm happy where I'm here today. Growing up, if you love theater, obviously like the end all be all is Broadway. Um, but then, I've had friends that are amazingly talented. They make their Broadway debut, and then what, right? And so I've tried throughout the years to like shift my mindset of not necessarily like an end all be all goal, but like some things that would be really cool to experience in my lifetime. So yes, Broadway would be really cool to be a part of at least one production in my life. Going to the West End to even just do a concert, to just experience their culture and their lifestyle over there, doing a musical over there. But I think like a really big goal of mine would be to originate a role. It would be really cool for, a team to see me in any aspect, a concert, a musical I'm doing, and being like, we have something for you, to have something that will complement your skill set, that reminds us of you, that you could bring your whole self into. It doesn't feel like it's an acting role, but it's Delaney who fits in this realm of this musical. So I think that would be a really cool goal to meet. But just to be employed, right? I mean, this industry is really hard to get into, and it's, to make ticket sales and to have people come see the shows, you're now competing with A-listers and movie stars, and you have to have a big name. So even when I book these regional jobs for 3 months, I'm like, woohoo! Like, this is a major win. So yeah, I guess the overall goal would be to like do what I do in any capacity and make money, and try to sustain a life with not necessarily a job field that pays a lot.
All right, thanks for that conversation. You can check out Spam-A-Lot from now until the 26th at the Fox Theater. All right, we are continuing to follow other headlines for you throughout our community, the nation, and the world. And today, we do know that Fulton County was holding a rally to commemorate the 36th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. That event, it had resource providers, it had exhibitors, performances, as well as community engagement here in Fulton County. We spoke with one of the officials about what this day means.
Yes, so Fulton County is celebrating the 36th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. We have a ADA rally that we're inviting members of the Fulton County community and beyond to celebrate with us. And so we have several vendors who are here to share their resources with the community and connect with them. And also we have entertainment individuals here. We have a special segment of two-step or eight count dance showing you a two-step, and we're going to have a great time celebrating here at Fulton County.
And so can you explain to me why this is a celebration, why this is important?
Yes, this is important for our community. One, because we want to make sure that our community understands that they're welcoming, that they're welcome to Fulton County. We want to make sure that they have a sense of belonging and certainly understand that they are included. We invest greatly here at Fulton County in our infrastructure to ensure the accessibility. We are currently working on website accessibility to ensure that our digital platforms are accessible. We are engaging with all members of the disability and community, bringing them in to connect with our citizens.
And so last question, what are you hoping for people to take away from today?
what I hope they will take away is the understanding that Fulton County is open to all, that this is a community where we include everyone, and members of our disability community are accommodated, given the opportunity to engage in our programming, given the opportunity to come in to receive any of our services without any barriers.
All right, our thanks to Adrian, one of our photographers, and Fulton County for that conversation. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Hey, welcome back into the stream. Faith Jesse joining you here. Let's get a check of our forecast. Meteorologist Jolie Martin in the stream. And we're both matching. We did not plan this
We
today.
kind of are. I like
love
it.
though.
It's a good summer color.
Nice summer color.
Yes.
Speaking of the summer.
It's feeling like summer.
It's feeling like summer.
Although not as hot as what we have been experiencing. So it's a good news, but the storms are still with us. So
Okay.
we will have to take what we can get, unfortunately. But taking you outside right now, it is 86, feeling like 92. You notice a few dark storm clouds there off in the distance, and that is because we are expecting some afternoon showers and storms, of course, coming through as has been par for the course over the past several days. 92, that's your feels like temperature downtown, but not as bad as what we have been. We've been in the 90s for seems like forever, and it does look like we're going to stay in the 80s for at least a couple of days, or at least right around 90 degrees. So about a 30 to 40% chance of staying stormy until we head into this evening and even up to about midnight, as we have a couple of factors going into play. High today, 89 degrees. Most of us are going to be sitting right around 90. Okay, those factors I was talking about, here we have this cold front off to our north, and then we have what's left of Tropical Storm Bertha off to our south by Texas there. So moisture funneling up behind Bertha, coming our way, and then the cold front sinking in from the north, that's going to trigger more storm activity. So those are the two main weather features, that front moving in, that tropical Gulf moisture, that will enhance our rain chances. Okay, Bertha is right now still a tropical storm, a 45-mile-per-hour storm, moving to the west at 10 miles per hour, so it's picked up some speed. You'll notice that a lot of that convection is still off in the Gulf. It did make landfall yesterday in Louisiana, and it should fall apart. This will probably be the last day of Bertha before it becomes subtropical and moves across Texas and weakens considerably. So not much to worry about with that. We do, though, keep that front around. So that is going to keep us unsettled, and we'll have to watch out for flash flooding, especially in this area of North Georgia. So we're talking northwest Georgia from Floyd County over to Coweta, even into Forsyth County, as far south as Forsyth, and then up into the North Georgia mountains. There's that flood risk. It is slight, a level 1 in yellow for most of us here, but still, if any of these storms slow down, it could really trigger some flash flooding. Taking a look here at the forecast track, showing some more activity, certainly around dinner time, and then in through the evening, both afternoon tomorrow and tomorrow evening. So those are going to be our big chance days, probably Friday into Saturday. Looking at anywhere from 1 to maybe 2.5 inches of rainfall in the next 3 days. 50% chance on Friday, and then 30% chance over the weekend. So we got a new drought monitor today, and we do have some slight improvements. It's not dramatic, but in the worst category, the D4 category, the biggest gains were made. So you know that that's the worst category, D4, so that would be extreme to exceptional drought. So here's your 7-day forecast. We'll keep the 80s around for a few days and the rain. And then it looks like to start off next week, we dry out, we warm up. Faith, we're back in the 90s once again. But that rain is actually a good thing. I was just checking, and we're still down about 3.5 inches, give or take, for the year. So any more rain we get is actually beneficial. We just don't want too much all at the same time. That triggers the flooding.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, yeah.
But we do need the rain.
We still do. Yeah,
The plants need the
absolutely.
rain. And this rain is actually making the temperatures a little cooler.
It is. That's the benefit.
So, look, a little bit of rain, a little bit of cool weather, your trade-off.
Yeah.
I love it.
Just be prepared.
Just
Yeah.
be prepared. Julie, well, we're prepared because of you, so thank you so much.
Oh, sure.
Truly appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, well, we are continuing to monitor stories all across our backyard as well as across the nation. So we want to head over to the West Coast in San Francisco. Things are very, very hot. Let's listen to leaders discussing extreme heat in San Francisco.
We want to welcome Officer Brandon Erickson from the San Francisco Police Department's Liaison Unit to the California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, or ABC. Officer Erickson, welcome back to the Public Safety and Neighborhood Services Committee. The floor is yours.
You have before you a PCN report for Out of Sight Productions, LLC as Reggie in Mods. They have applied for a Type 48 license, and if approved, this would allow them to operate an on-sale general public premise at 456 to 460 Larkin Street. There are 0 letters of protest and 0 letters of support. They are located in Plot 553, which is considered a high crime area. They are in Census Tract 124.03, which is considered a high concentration area. Tenderloin Station has no opposition. ALU recommendation, approval with the following conditions. Condition 1, except as provided in Condition 2 below, no noise shall be audible beyond the area under the control of the licensee. Condition 2, any noise caused by entertainment or amplified sound that is subject to the provisions of an active entertainment permit issued by the San Francisco Entertainment Commission shall be authorized in accordance with the limits established by that entertainment permit, including any limitation on hours during which entertainment or amplified sound is permitted. A violation of the entertainment permit or amplified sound noise conditions of the entertainment permit, as determined by the San Francisco Entertainment Commission, shall be deemed to be a violation of this condition. Any noise that is subject to or is beyond the scope of the entertainment permit shall be subject to Condition 1 above. Entertainment permit means any of the following: a just add music permit, a limited live.
All All right, so we were listening into a meeting there in California. They are not talking about heat, though, so we're going to bring things back here at home as they continue to discuss San Francisco matters that don't really impact us much. Here's something that does impact us. We're continuing to follow developments out of a shooting at a MARTA bus station. 2 people recovering, the shooting happening in Sandy Springs. And this was, police are saying, an accidental shooting. They are still searching for the gun that was used in this. 11 Alive's Ariana Maniz filed this report earlier.
Police say the man was riding the bus when his gun was accidentally discharged. He shot himself in the arm, and that same bullet struck a woman who was riding the bus in the leg. Police say this happened around 11:15 last night as the bus was here along Roswell Road. Police say after the gun went off, the man ran from the bus while the woman stayed aboard waiting for first responders. Officers later found that suspect at a nearby church where he was taken into custody. Both the woman and the man were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. And police say the man will be booked into the Fulton County Jail after he's released from the hospital, where he'll face charges of reckless conduct and aggravated assault. And investigators say this does appear to be an accidental discharge, not a targeted shooting, but this does come at a time when MARTA has been in the spotlight when it comes to crime and safety. MARTA's police chief went to state lawmakers asking them to ban guns on buses, trains, and even at MARTA stations in an effort to help MARTA's police department keep the MARTA Transit Agency safe. We will check in on the woman's condition and the man to see how this story develops. Reporting from Sandy Springs, I'm Ariana Maniz for 11 Alive.
All right, well, from Sandy Springs to Bankhead, reports of 4 people shot there. 11 Alive's Stefanich Haynock filed this report.
No, not yet, but last night Atlanta police said that they were going to be reviewing surveillance video to try and determine how many shooters are involved in this. And at last check, all 4 men who were shot yesterday, they're stable in the hospital. Now, investigators say they believe this shooting happened at a food mart on Joseph E. Lowry Boulevard Wednesday afternoon right here after a man with a gun entered a business there. The men that were shot range in age from 30 to 60 years old, and investigators say there was a dispute between a group of people who knew each other. This morning, they're sharing a message to people here in the city.
Like I've said before, just let calmer heads prevail, and, to bring a gunfight to a fight is, of course, ridiculous. It should never escalate to this.
And APD says they're not exactly sure what led up to the shooting, but that it was related to something that happened earlier in the day. If you have any information, you can contact APD outside Grady Hospital. I'm Stefanich Haynock, 11 Alive News.
Okay, thanks to Steph for that report. And we are going to continue to monitor that development. We're also monitoring the crime trends. This is the 2nd quadruple shooting this month. Alarming. Let's bring in my producer, Reems Landreth, to talk about these trends. I mean, it seems like, because we're in the news, right? So it seems like we talk about these shootings every single day. We do. But when you look at the numbers, the crime trends are actually trending down.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little, it feels like we talk about it a lot more, but the actual numbers overall are going down. I think there's the question of is there a reporting bias versus an actual numbers bias there? The most recent data, homicides are down 8%, but aggravated assaults are actually up. So what that kind of can mean a lot of the time, aggravated assaults does include people getting shot. The homicides is someone being shot and dying, being killed by that gunfire. So if I remember correctly from the other research, we're seeing we could be seeing more shootings, but less people dying in those shootings. The real trouble, yes. So about 300 more reported aggravated assaults this year than last year, but overall, total crime down 14%. We heard from the police chief yesterday, Darren Shearbaum, who said that trend was continuing during the World Cup, down 18% in the 6 weeks that we are hosting those 8 matches here versus the same time last summer. Summer, a big time for crime. The heat brings more people outside. Mm-hmm. The heat also can be an aggravating factor for people to get more riled up and cause unfortunate incidents there.
Yeah. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, just to Mr. Shearbaum's what he was saying with the crime numbers this year, especially for World Cup, you also have to keep in mind that they brought in a lot more police.
They did 1,900, including police as
Yeah.
far away as Denver.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw that presence. I mean, even in Piedmont Park, I believe it was the game, not the semifinal for Argentina, but when they were here before that, they had a huge rally in Piedmont Park. And I'm pretty sure I counted about 50 officers on bikes alone. That's not including the other officers that were just there in the park. If you took MARTA, you saw officers present there, some of them with long guns. There were police pretty much everywhere.
Yeah,
in
and
World Cup.
the one thing to is kind of a sobering note to end on, but something to keep in mind as we talked about the summer is this time where we do see violent crime increase. That includes a year ago, the last week of July last year, so next week essentially for us, where we saw 40 people shot over Atlanta during the course of that week, including that mass shooting in Sweet Auburn that caused that public safety task force that recommended a moratorium on new liquor licenses in the Edgewood Avenue corridor.
Yeah.
But City Council has shelved that. That's not going to happen anymore.
We also, did we see, and I don't know if it was this specific incident, but there were incidents prior that we saw curfews come out.
Yes.
I remember when I first got here, it must have been 2022, that holiday, there was 2 teens shot in Atlantic Station.
Yes.
And it was where? Around Thanksgiving, that's right. Our producer, Megan. And they put a curfew saying that, after, I believe it was 9 or 10 o'clock, you can't come out if you're not, I believe, over, I could be getting this wrong, but I would want to say it was like 16 or 18.
Yeah, and we've seen this happen a lot. We've seen this. We report on this at Six Flags as well, and at other places where we see a lot of times where young people are hanging out. That usually ends up causing some type of violence, unfortunately. And so a lot of places starting to crack down on how many people can come together per adult, how they prove age, that kind of thing.
And it's not just a teen thing, because I know that we were using that term, teen takeover, especially with the spring break, what we saw over Juneteenth. That was the tragedy at Piedmont Park. But this is not just teens, this is adults too. And we're covering these stories collectively, guys. And we just had an interview at the top of the show with a member of HWPL of Georgia, and their peace education, their Stop the Bleed, they're called to put the guns down. We don't need to be shooting and killing our neighbors. We can fight this crime together and reduce the violence. But those are the crime numbers that we're seeing there. We'll continue to update you when that new data comes out and we hear more from Atlanta Police Chief Darren Shearbaum. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. welcome back to the stream. Faith Jesse joining you here on 11Alive 24/7. Hey, school is right around the corner. Do we have our school supplies, the backpacks, the notebooks, all of that? Are the kids excited to go back? Maybe not. Maybe they are. Well, here's one big question for all of the students out there. Can art play a role when it comes to learning, mental health, the success of students? Let's talk about it with Dr. Anna Brown, head of the Howard School. Dr. Brown, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, Dr. Brown, I cannot believe we are about 2 weeks until kids are back in school. I feel like summer just flew by.
That's exactly right. Yes, here we go.
Here we go. Well, you all are very busy as parents and students are getting ready to return back to the classroom, the teachers as well. And you just held an event talking about Innovation Sprint, right? What does today's event mean for students? Can you explain that innovation that you all are working on when it comes to art and mental health? And what can this mean, especially for those students looking to head back into the classroom in just a couple weeks here?
This was an incredibly exciting event. We gathered this morning with scientists, researchers, clinicians, teachers, and artists. And this is a group of people who believe in the transformative power of the arts to bring about wellness, health, social cohesion, and in particular, improve learning outcomes for children who are neurodiverse, just like those at the Howard School.
Yeah, yeah. And art, as we all know, can play a huge role in this, especially when it comes to communication. Students that are still learning to communicate, those who are neurodivergent and those who are not, right? Can you talk about some of just the strategies and some of the things that you see are working for students when it comes to the arts and their learning?
Absolutely. So at the Howard School, all of our students have a language-based learning difference. And that means they may struggle to express what they're thinking and feeling in a way that the person next to them might not. It may mean that it's harder for them to hear and interpret language. And what the arts do is provide a powerful tool for these students to express, to share, to engage, and to communicate. So it really unlocks potential and opportunity for these learners.
What are some of the type of arts that the students are participating in to help them take in information and also express what they're feeling?
Absolutely. Today, for example, we had with us people from the Alliance Theater, so performing arts. We had people from the High Museum, so visual arts. We had guests from Infinity Village Lab, which is looking at AI and computer-based arts. We had guests from Autism Improvise, so they're looking at improvisational theater. So the art modalities that we use are unlimited in possibility.
Can you tell us, just kind of bring us to where you are at the Howard School and give us some of that feedback that you're hearing from both parents and the students when they're participating in these different art programs? What is that feedback like?
It is joyful and uplifting and energizing for students to have capacity for voice, for students to be fully present and have ownership and agency over what they want to say and how they want to be present in the world. It's something every child deserves. And the neurodivergent child, it's harder. The path is harder. And so what we do at the Howard School and through the use of the arts and with these incredible partners from this morning is we find those pathways. We work together to create that opportunity.
And of course, you all work so hard to make this happen today. There's also still work that has to be done. What are some of the biggest things that are still needed when it comes to making sure that these students are supported?
Funding is a major thing that we need. We are, nonprofit agencies just across, be it in the arts, in the sciences, in the K through 12 educational space. That's a huge hurdle. It's a real challenge that we face. We are committed. This group of people today acknowledge this moment as a beginning. It is a movement to action, and our resolve is unwavering. So we will do this work. And we cannot wait to share it with the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia.
Absolutely. For any parents out there who might be navigating, or maybe they have, family friends who are navigating, they have a student who is neurodivergent, what is your advice or just a word to them as they navigate? Every experience is different. I should say that first. But as they, navigate to make sure that their child is getting the best support in school, maybe they don't have the answers. What's your advice to them?
My advice to them is keep going. Don't give up. At the Howard School, what we say is no child is broken. We are not fixing children. We are celebrating these children exactly as they are, for who they are and how they are. And what we will do is transform the school environment, the learning space, to greet these children where they are, to then open up all of the learning of which they're capable. And so to these parents, I would say, find your people. Find the school that supports you and cares for you, and connect with that. Stay engaged with that. We're out there.
I absolutely love that. Well, Dr. Brown, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise and giving us some insight. Is there a place where parents can go for more information?
Absolutely. Please visit our website, howardschool.org. Please feel free to come by campus at any time, and keep your eye out across Atlanta for all of the NeuroArts initiatives that are going on.
All right. Dr. Anna Brown, head of the Howard School, thank you so much. We truly appreciate you coming on and sharing your insight with us. We'll be posting this full interview on 11alive.com. Hey, stay with us. We'll head to break. We'll see you right after this. Welcome back into the stream. Faith Jesse joining you here on 11Alive 24/7, where we are keeping our eyes and ears open of all the headlines happening across our country, in our backyard, and in the world. But first, we want to head up to D.C. to take a look inside of the Senate right now as they are discussing some legislative priorities. Let's listen in.
Our job, the job of this body, is to prove him wrong. And that means striking at the one thing that keeps the Kremlin's war going: money. Money is what keeps the Kremlin's war going. And that's why I'm proud to support two strong bipartisan bills that would give President Trump additional tools to leverage in the pursuit of peace. The first is the appropriately named Lindsey Graham Sanctioning Russia Act. Senator Graham championed a foreign policy rooted in American strength, from the defense of Ukraine to the cause of freedom everywhere. And as you see on Chart 3, this legislation would authorize sweeping sanctions on Russian officials, oligarchs, banks, state-controlled entities, and the shadow fleet that Putin has used to evade sanctions. It would give our president the authority to impose tariffs of up to 100% on the top importers of Russian crude oil or natural gas and the top 5 countries facilitating Russian oil sanctions evasion. Finally, it would cut Russia off from U.S. capital and energy markets by prohibiting U.S. investment in Russia, purchases of Russian sovereign debt, and broker-dealer-funded transfers involving the Russian government. The message is simple. If you bankroll Putin's war, you will pay a price in the American capital markets. The second bill is bipartisan legislation that I have introduced with my colleagues here in the Senate, Senator Coons, Senator Husted, and Senator Warren, the Decreasing Russian Oil Profits Act. And as you see on Chart 4, the DROP Act targets the single most important source of revenue propping up the Kremlin's war machine: oil. This legislation fills a gap in our sanctions posture by requiring targeted sanctions on anyone, anywhere dealing in Russian origin oil: the purchasers, the shippers, the financiers, and the executives who profit from it. Now is the time to move on these Russia sanction bills to give the president the tools and the leverage he needs to end this conflict. And now is the time to increase the pressure on Putin's unbridled aggression. Now, Mr. President, this is a bipartisan cause because it's an American cause. Peace comes through strength, never through weakness, never through wishful thinking. And the tide is turning. Ukraine is doing its part on the battlefield, and now the United States must capitalize on this strategic opportunity to weaken Putin's Russia. I urge my colleagues to pass the Lindsey Graham Sanctioning Russia Act and the DROP Act without delay. Give our president the tools he needs to bring this conflict to a peaceful resolution. I yield the floor.
All right, we are monitoring several stories across our nation. You were just listening live into the U.S. Senate discussing legislative priorities, which we will continue to stay on. Up in your right-hand corner, this is big news out of Minnesota. You'll remember a shooting of a woman named Melissa Hortman, and her husband, Melissa, was a top Democratic official in the legislature, state legislature in Minnesota. She was Speaker of the House there, and she was shot and killed. Well, a man named Vance Bolter, 59 years old, he pled guilty to that shooting almost a year after these attacks in Minneapolis. He's accused of stalking and then killing House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark. He also critically wounded State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette. So we are hearing that he was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences in prison. He took a guilty plea to avoid the death penalty, a potential death penalty of going to trial there. He was also given an additional 480 months, 4 years in prison. So right now we are waiting for the attorneys to come out and they're expected to hold a press conference to talk about this sentencing as well as what is next here. So once again, we're staying on top of that. You can see that I believe that might be counsel there and some of the family members, but as soon as they are ready to speak, we will bring that to you. It looks like maybe one of the photographers might be edging up to speak with them. This gentleman here with the folder. But once again, we will see.
We're not entirely sure, Faith. We have, producer Reams here, we have seen multiple groups of people coming and going from the courthouse. This is probably the 4th or 5th group that our cameras up there from our affiliate has been able to.
It looks like we're getting an interview here.
Let's see if we'll wait for the scrum. We don't have enough audio right now. We'll see if our photographer there can get some audio going, and let's try to listen in.
No audio yet?
All right, it seems like we don't have audio at this time there. If we get any audio, we will definitely come in back and bring that to you.
Well, hopefully they get that mic up because they're in the middle of a interview there. But once, I guess, when he puts the audio up. Well, once again, if you're just joining us, this is the 11Alive 24/7 stream. We are following this case out of Minnesota, a man sentenced to the shooting death of Melissa Hortman, the Speaker of the House in Minnesota, and her husband, as well as wounding State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette. This took place last year. The man, Vance Boltner, 59 years old, just agreed to that sentencing. We were trying to listen in to this, we call this a media scrum, not an actual press conference, but all of the press that you see there waiting for the attorneys, families, anyone coming out of that courtroom to see if they'd like to speak. So we will continue to monitor this for you. We didn't have any audio there, but we'll continue to monitor it. If any news happens, we'll bring it to you live. But once again, we are monitoring stories across our country and our backyard. You're taking, obviously, a look at the markets there. We just, in the top right-hand corner, that is what we are monitoring there in Minnesota at the courthouse. And then you see U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders speaking on the Senate floor. Do we want to listen live into that right now? Okay, let's listen live into Senator Sanders.
And so many other areas. Is that why these multi-billionaires are pushing this revolution? Maybe, but I doubt it. I think the answer is quite obvious, and everybody in America knows it. These multi-billionaires are investing in AI and robotics because they want to become even wealthier and even more powerful than they are today. That is what is motivating these investments. Mr. President, I think it's enormously important we take a hard look at what an uncontrolled AI push by the wealthiest people in our country will mean to ordinary Americans. Over the past year, I have spoken with workers and union leaders, computer scientists, psychologists, religious leaders, environmentalists, and privacy experts about AI and robotics. And while each of these people may be focusing on a different aspect of the overall situation, they all agree that the unregulated race to develop more and more powerful AI represents a profound threat to humanity. And Mr. President, this is exactly what the average American today is telling us. Recently, a poll came out from the publication Heat Map, which expresses an enormous change in sentiment with regard to data centers. Whereas a year ago, Americans were evenly split on whether they supported building a data center near where they live, there is now a 50-point gap, with 71% of Americans opposed to building a data center near where they live. And it's not just data centers. When pollsters ask how people feel about AI, there is enormous and growing apprehension. A recent Quinnipiac poll found that 55% of Americans think AI will do more harm than good, and only 5% think AI development is being led by people and organizations that represent their interests. Mr. President, let me give you some of the reasons, just some, as to why the overwhelming majority of Americans are deeply concerned about the rapid development of AI and robotics. The American people feel, with 70% numbers in a recent poll, that AI will lead to fewer jobs. And they're quite right about their concerns. Elon Musk, who has invested hundreds of billions in AI and robotics, recently said that, quote, AI and robots will replace all jobs, end quote. Bill Gates, who has also made huge investments in these technologies, predicted that humans, quote, won't be needed for most things, end quote. Mustafa Suleyman, the CEO of Microsoft AI, said most white-collar work, quote, will be fully automated by an AI within the next 12 to 18 months, end quote. And it's not just white-collar jobs that we're talking about. Earlier this year, Wall Street Journal reported that Jeff Bezos is seeking to raise $100 billion to purchase factories all over America. His goal? Replace the millions of workers who are employed in these plants with robots. Recently, I took a trip in a self-driving Waymo car in San Francisco. There was nobody behind the wheel. Waymo is already operating self-driving cars in 10 major cities, and along with other driverless car companies, intends to expand rapidly. What does that mean? Well, say goodbye to taxi cab drivers, Uber drivers, truck drivers, bus drivers, all across the country. Those jobs gone. As the ranking member of the U.S. Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, I released a well-researched report finding that AI, automation, and robotics could replace nearly 100 million American jobs over the next decade, including 47% of truck drivers, 64% of accountants, 89% of fast food workers, among many other occupations. These are not just theoretical concerns. We're already starting to see the impact of AI and robotics on workers. Amazon and Oracle have laid off 30,000 workers each. Microsoft has laid off 20,000 workers. Meta has laid off 18,000, et cetera, et cetera. Researchers have found that new companies using AI have about 25% fewer employees than comparable companies. In other words, the AI revolution is already making it harder for people to find decent-paying jobs, and we are only in the beginning stage of this revolution. Let me be clear. The AI oligarchs do not want to just replace specific jobs. They want to replace workers. That is the goal. According to OpenAI's charter, its mission is to build, quote, highly autonomous systems that outperform humans at most economically valuable work, end quote. If OpenAI is successful in building highly autonomous systems that outperform humans at most economically valuable work, I have a very simple question. What happens to those workers who are replaced? How will they be able to find new jobs if there are no jobs to find? If AI and robotics eliminate millions of jobs and create massive unemployment, how will people survive if they have no income? If people are not employed and if they're not paying taxes, what happens to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other essential government services funded by these taxes? But it's not just employment that I am worried about and that the American people are worried about. AI and robotics threaten our emotional well-being, who we are as human beings, how we relate to each other. In many cases, work is one of the ways that we connect to each other. Whether we are doctors or taxi cab drivers, we all want to serve our community, we want to be productive members of society. That gives our lives purpose. And what happens when millions of people lose their jobs, their meaning and their purpose, and their source of connection to each other? And work is just one aspect of what we're talking about. What happens when people live through their screens? Their major form of social interaction is not with other people, but with screens and artificial intelligence, talking to chatbots instead of other people. Further, Mr. President, AI and robotics are threatening the very well-being of our kids. Let us be frank. Even before the widespread deployment of AI, children in our country are struggling. A lot of reasons for that, but the evidence is clear. They are struggling. Today, high school kids have the lowest reading scores in 30 years. The writing skills of our children are in decline, as are their cognitive capabilities. College professors tell us that their students cannot do middle school math or read long texts. That is where we are now. What got us here? Where are we going in the future? Experts increasingly point to the role of screens and technology. In America today, and this is really, I keep questioning my staff about this, but they tell me that this is accurate. In America today, about 40% of children have a tablet by age 2. 40% of children have a tablet by age 2. The typical 5-year-old spends over 3.5 hours per day on screens. Nearly all schools now provide devices in classrooms. Mr. President, what is going on here? And let us be clear. The extraordinary amount of time our young people spend on screens and the impact that time on screens is having on them. All of this is not an accident. We have testimony from employees at the major big tech companies like Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, that algorithms they developed were designed to addict kids to screens. Addict kids to screens. A senior researcher at Meta, for example, called Instagram, quote, a drug. In other words, Mr. President, the big tech oligarchs are addicting our kids to screens so that they can make more and more money. They are sacrificing the health and well-being of our children for their increased wealth. And now big tech companies are pushing AI and robots to replace teachers in our classrooms. Apparently, it is not good enough for them to addict our kids to screens. Now they want to push AI and robots to replace teachers in classrooms. Do we as a nation really want AI robots teaching our kids? Does anyone have any evidence whatsoever that this new technology will help our kids learn better? And it is not just the intellectual abilities of our kids that we should worry about. AI is also impacting their mental health. It is no great secret that millions of our children are struggling emotionally, and loneliness and depression are on the rise. There are many kids in America today whose best friends are not other children they know, but AI bots. What does it mean for young people to form friendships with AI and become increasingly isolated from other human beings? Does anyone in America think the past 20 years of social media have been good for children's mental health and cognitive capabilities? Does anyone really think we should now entrust these same companies with even more power over our children's well-being and development? But it's not only our kids' health, it's not only the economy. AI is threatening the very concept of privacy rights. You know, we hear on the floor of the Senate time and time again, we are a free country, we are a free people. Well, let me give you the bad news. We're not quite as free as people think we are. For decades, companies have been collecting our personal information, what we search for online, where we visit, who we talk to, what we buy. Now, AI-powered surveillance companies like Palantir make it possible for someone to quickly analyze all that information, find patterns, and create profiles of us. And by the way, Mr. President, not just the economy, it's not just our mental health, it's not just what's happening to our kids. AI is threatening our democracy. We're back to that film, Don't Look Up. Well, maybe we should look at what's going on the internet right now, this minute. The rise of deepfakes, convincing fake images, videos, and audio make it possible for bad actors to distort what elected officials and candidates are saying. And I suspect this is personal for many members of the Senate who have had experiences with this issue. And let me tell you, if you don't think this will ever happen to you, you are very mistaken. In a recent Republican congressional primary in Kentucky, a super PAC opposing Thomas Massie released an ad with deepfakes depicting him in a romantic relationship with female members of Congress. It was a lie, but there were voters in Kentucky who believed that. Bottom line, Mr. President, it is becoming increasingly difficult for people to differentiate truth from fiction. How can people make informed political decisions if that occurs? And Mr. President, as we speak, all over this country, people are rising up against data centers in their own communities. They don't want to pay higher electric rates. They're worried about the impact of water. They're worried about the impact of noise and heat. And we're seeing people, whether they are Republicans, Democrats, conservative, progressive, saying no to these data centers. So, Mr. President, I hope very much we don't do what people did in that movie, Don't Look Up. I hope while this massive revolution is taking place, which is going to transform our lives, I hope that we look up. And I hope that people in Congress have the guts to say that the future of humanity should not be determined by a handful of the wealthiest people on earth. That maybe in a democratic society, the people should determine where we want to go. And I know that AI is spending tens of millions of dollars on campaign contributions. And if you speak up against them, hey, they're going to put millions of dollars of 30-second ads against you. But maybe just now in this moment in American history, we have the guts to tell AI where they should go. Stand up for our kids, stand up for democracy, stand up for privacy, stand up for workers, and utilize AI and robotics to benefit all of us, not just to make a handful of billionaires even richer. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Under the previous order, the Senate will resume consideration of the following nomination, which the clerk will report.
Nomination, the judiciary, Antonio M. Pozos of Pennsylvania to be United States District Judge for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania.
The question is on the nomination. Sufficient second? There appears to be. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Also Brooks, Mr. Armstrong, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks.
All right, Producer Reams here. We are listening live. Senator Bernie Sanders just finishing up now. We are moving on to other agenda items as they keep on discussing. Right now, they are doing a roll call vote for a district judge here for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. With that, we are going to go to a quick break here. We will be back on the other side of that break.
welcome back to the stream. Faith Jesse joining you here on 11Alive 24/7. Well, when we talk about neurological diseases, sometimes the diagnosis aren't made until after that disease has made significant damage. So now researchers are trying to figure out how to reverse that. Mandy Gaither explains.
It's the most complex part of the human body. This 3-pound organ helps you think, interpret senses, initiate movement, and control behavior. But there's still so much to learn about the brain and the disorders that affect it.
Brain disease is a massive hidden epidemic.
In the U.S., there are more than 600 neurological diseases and disorders being researched, including Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, stroke, and epilepsy.
We are able to treat the symptoms, the manifestations of the disease, but we are not able to stop the disease.
That's why the Cleveland Clinic Brain Study was launched in 2022. Healthy volunteers will be examined over the next 20 years. Researchers are analyzing blood samples, MRIs, and retina scans, says co-principal investigator Dr. Ahmad Najm.
So we can start to understand why and identify targets for diagnosis and treatment of these diseases.
The goal is to discover who is at risk, why some brains become diseased while others stay healthy, paving the way for early intervention, better treatments, and ultimately prevention.
Either keep building nursing homes to comfort people after brain disease takes hold, or invest in the research to prevent and cure these diseases.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And our thanks to Mandy Gaither for that report. Hey, we will take a quick break. It's been great to be with you on your Thursday. Zach Merchant is on deck to continue this 11Alive 24/7 stream. We're always on for you. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome in. It is Thursday afternoon, 2:01. I almost said 2 o'clock, but the day's flying by. 2:01 is your time right now, Thursday afternoon. I'm Zach Merchant with you for the next 2 hours with all the news you need to get through what is always a busy day of news here in Georgia and all across the country and the world. And as always, we're going to kick things off with a look at our forecast. Meteorologist Julie Martin is here with us right now. Julie, how are we looking out there?
Yeah, well, a little bit cooler, a couple degrees anyway,
We like that.
than what we have been experiencing. We will keep the storms around, though. We got a couple of things working against us when it comes to the storm activity. So I'll take you outside right now. We are at 85 over downtown Atlanta, looking from Decatur here. Feels like 91 with a west wind at 8. Feels like temperatures aren't that bad compared to what we usually have been experiencing in recent days. So 91 downtown, 90 in Canton, cooler in the mountains, 84 in Blairsville, and 89 in Canton. Next 12 hours looks like we'll keep a 40% chance of rain with us until about 5 p.m. Then with lesser chances as we head into the latter part of this evening. Temperatures will fall back into the 80s tonight, eventually the 70s, and then we have more rain chances coming in tomorrow. So our high temps will likely top out around 89 degrees, which is just a degree or so cooler than where we usually are. Okay, a couple of these factors will keep us stormy over the next couple of days. We have to the north a cold front that's going to be sagging in across North Georgia. That's going to stall out. That will be helping to trigger some storms. Then over near Texas, you see Tropical Storm Bertha. So behind Bertha, the moisture that's being funneled up from the south is also reaching us. So we've got both the cold front and then we have the tropical Gulf moisture enhancing our rain chances over the next couple of days. So the 2 o'clock advisory just came out from the National Hurricane Center. It is still Bertha, a 45 mile per hour storm, very close here to Texas right now. It is moving west at 10, so it's picked up some speed. It was around 6 or 7 earlier today, so it's moving a little bit faster. And the good thing is that it is expected to make landfall again. This will be the second time, and then fall apart, basically dissipate by tonight when it moves inland. So we will have Bertha no more. Now we could see some isolated flooding though, along the Texas coast especially. So that will be the major threat, I think, with Bertha. Okay, a flood watch for us. This goes through Friday here in northwest Georgia and portions of North Georgia. So from Floyd County over to, say, Bartow County, Forsyth even, and then the North Georgia mountain counties, all of us have to watch out for any localized flash flooding. This is at flood risk. It's slight, but it's still there. If any of these storms slow down over a long period of time, that's where we get into trouble, especially in the higher elevations. So tracking this out, looks very scattered this afternoon into this evening, dodging a few storms through about 9 o'clock. And then here we go again on Friday. Friday, excuse me, has a little bit better chances in terms of the widespread showers and storms. No big severe weather threat with any of these, but some isolated severe weather could pop up here or there, so just be weather aware. Could pick up another inch to an inch and a half or so over the next 3 days. So we will keep that around for us with a 50% chance on Friday and then down to 30% chances over the weekend. We also got a new drought monitor out today. Every Thursday we get one. And there were some slight improvements, especially in the extreme and exceptional categories. Those were a little bit lower overall. So we are still down about 3.5 inches or so for the year, but overall nowhere near as bad as we were even a couple of months ago. 7-day forecast, Zach, looks like this. We stay a little bit cooler than average, but unsettled through about Sunday. Then the heat returns and the drier air with sunny skies and mid-90s.
Are my eyes playing a trick on me, or do I see days with no percentage chance of precipitation?
I know,
can't
right?
remember the last time
I
we've
know,
seen that.
no promises.
Hey, we're not going to hold you to it, but
it's still a little early.
Hope springs eternal at this early juncture of the 7
it would be
day.
nice to get just a little break.
Yes, it would. That'd be really good.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you one last question before you go. Obviously, you gave us the latest on Tropical Storm Bertha. Keeping a close eye on our friends living in and near the Gulf.
Mm-hmm.
It seems, though, kind of zooming out 30,000-foot level, that we have not had a lot of conversations about tropical storms, about hurricanes so far this season.
Yeah.
Has it been a more quiet season so far this year?
Well, Bertha's our second named storm, so we're off to a slow start, but that is not unusual for July. Typically we peak in terms of hurricane activity in late September, so we still have a long way to go. Usually July kind of goes either way. We could start off real active and then we get more quiet, but normally the peak would be right around mid-September is likely when we would see that. But, as we always like to say, it only takes one storm, so, don't let your guard down yet. It doesn't really mean anything at this point, although we do have a weather pattern. We can get into this and talk a whole bunch about this, but El Nino developing, and that tends to knock down hurricane activity.
That was a much better explanation than I could have given. Julie, we appreciate it as always.
We'll have another conversation about that
another
day.
Whenever you want to, this is an open table to discuss all things weather.
I'll make some graphics and we'll explain it. It's a little scientific.
Obviously, think of our friends in the Gulf, and a long road to go for us here, but hoping for the best.
Yeah, should be pretty good.
Julie, thank you very much.
Sure.
All right, we're going to shift gears, turn to this now. There are two people who are recovering right now after a shooting on a MARTA bus in Sandy Springs. Police say the suspect now in custody, but investigators are still searching for the weapon. All of this happened along Roswell Road. Our Ariana Manise has this story.
Police say the man was riding the bus when his gun was accidentally discharged. He shot himself in the arm, and that same bullet struck a woman who was riding the bus in the leg. Police say this happened around 11:15 last night as the bus was here along Roswell Road. Police say after the gun went off, the man ran from the bus while the woman stayed aboard waiting for first responders. Officers later found that suspect at a nearby church where he was taken into custody. Both the woman and the man were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. And police say the man will be booked into the Fulton County Jail after he's released from the hospital, where he'll face charges of reckless conduct and aggravated assault. And investigators say this does appear to be an accidental discharge, not a targeted shooting, but this does come at a time when MARTA has been in the spotlight when it comes to crime and safety. MARTA's police chief went to state lawmakers asking them to ban guns on buses, trains, and even at MARTA stations in an effort to help MARTA's police department keep the MARTA Transit Agency safe. We will check in on the woman's condition and the man to see how this story develops. Reporting from Sandy Springs, I'm Ariana Manise for 11Alive.
Now we're going to go up to Madison, Wisconsin. Authorities say a man with a knife was shot and killed by a veteran deputy during a struggle. NBC's Shaquille Brewster is in Madison with the latest. And a warning here, some of the video you are about to see could be disturbing.
We are learning new details about the fatal police shooting in Madison, Wisconsin that took place Wednesday afternoon at the intersection behind me. You see that intersection right now is closed off. A makeshift memorial is in its place. We know that more demonstrations are planned throughout the day and into the evening, including a vigil that is set for later this evening. All as an investigation into the shooting is well underway. Police say that this started yesterday afternoon when they were responding to a call of a person who was checking car doors after that person fled. That led them to this intersection here. And that is where you see on video there was a scuffle that then ensued about 30 minutes later. In that altercation, you see police trying to take a man down. You hear 3 shots eventually fired. Now, police say that that man that you see in the video was brandishing a knife during that altercation. They say that knife ending up injuring one of the officers involved. That officer, they say, was hospitalized in that altercation. They say another officer was also injured and hospitalized, though their injuries are not clear at this point. But all of this is going to be under investigation. That investigation is being led by the Wisconsin Department of Justice. They will produce a report that they will ultimately turn over to prosecuting attorneys who will then make the decision on possible charges. But many people calling for that investigation to be independent and to be transparent, and they're calling for accountability, saying they're planning to continue to stay here and demonstrate and ask questions until they get answers. Back to you.
Stay with us. Much more to come. Georgia is one of the fastest growing and now one of the top homes for data centers in the entirety of the United States. But DeKalb County commissioners say they do not want to add to the count of data centers in their county, at least not yet. 11Alive's Joe Ripley has more on the debate behind data center expansion and why it is currently, in some places, at least here in Georgia, stuck in place.
This downpour isn't dampening the debate on data centers in DeKalb County.
There is a need for data centers in certain locations, just not in the backyards of District 3.
Commissioner Nicole Messiah says District 3 has a lot of undeveloped land, drawing developers who would like to build data centers to keep up with increased data storage, cloud storage, and artificial intelligence capability.
There's so many unknowns in terms of energy use, of water use, of pollution, of sound.
Last month, DeKalb County commissioners extended a 2025 moratorium on applications for new data centers to study the potential impacts on health and safety.
That's why things like the moratorium is important, but making sure it has teeth and that we're doing something with the time, that we're not just buying time, but we're actually utilizing the resources that are necessary to find out the truths and the facts.
Kirk O'Fell, CEO of Overwatch Mission Critical, supports data center expansion. He says data centers will lead to more job growth, but admits there needs to be clearer communication when it comes to the overall impact of data centers on a community.
We have to be careful when we say we want to stop this, because we don't want to stop it. We want to slow it down. We want to regulate it. We want to make sure that we force the developers to make sure that when they're designing these things, they don't drive the price of energy up to consumers. Stopping and putting a moratorium on it, it's like a death sentence.
Data center expansion in DeKalb County would require commissioners to agree on land use, planning, and zoning. But Messiah says she's willing to hold off on moving forward to do more research and come to the right conclusion.
Making sure that when we have growth, economic development and growth, that is protecting people and is doing what's right with people in mind.
Joe Ripley, 11Alive News.
And DeKalb County commissioners recently extended the moratorium on new data center development through the end of September. They are expected to meet again sometime this fall to further discuss how they plan to move forward. Now to this, in Fulton County. Fulton County today held a rally to commemorate the 36th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act, also known as the ADA. The event featured resource providers, exhibits, performers, and community engagement focused on accessibility and inclusion. And we spoke with a Fulton County official about today's event.
Yes, so Fulton County is celebrating the 36th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. We have a ADA rally that we're inviting members of the Fulton County community and beyond to celebrate with us. And so we have several vendors who are here to share their resources with the community and connect with them. And also we have entertainment individuals here. We have a special segment of two-step or eight count dance showing you as two-step, and we're going to have a great time celebrating here at Fulton County.
And there's, can you explain to me why this is a celebration, why this is important?
Yes, this is important for our community. One, because we want to make sure that our community understands that they're welcoming, that they're welcome to Fulton County. We want to make sure that they have a sense of belonging and certainly understand that they are included. We invest greatly here at Fulton County in our infrastructure to ensure the accessibility. We are currently working on website accessibility to ensure that our digital platforms are accessible. We are engaging with all members of the disability and community, bringing them in to connect with our citizens.
And so last question, what are you hoping for people to take away from today?
What I hope they will take away is the understanding that Fulton County is open to all, that this is a community where we include everyone, and members of our disability community are accommodated, given the opportunity to engage in our programming, given the opportunity to come in to receive any of our services without any barriers.
All right, 2:19 is your time right now this Thursday afternoon. Stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. We will be right back with much more. Tropical storm Bertha rolls on, impacting millions along the Gulf Coast. The storm made landfall east of New Orleans, brought drenching rain and winds at times up to 45 miles per hour. NBC's George Solis has the latest.
Things here in New Orleans certainly much calmer after Bertha turned to shore Thursday afternoon, but the storm still packed a little bit of a punch. We still saw some wind, rain, and some localized flooding. Fishermen, of course, taking precautions as well in some of the coastal communities like Venice, Louisiana. We saw one and met one who was packing up, saying this was still reminiscent of some of the storms past, although they were grateful that the conditions were not more severe. The Gulf Coast certainly impacted by Bertha. In places like Dauphin Island, Alabama, we saw cars that were covered in sand by some of the storm surge. We saw some big waves. We saw some strong gusts. Here in the New Orleans area, gusts reported around 30 to 40 miles per hour. And again, the storm continuing to move west. It is expected to make a second landfall near Galveston, Texas today as a weaker tropical storm. Still, the concern over some rain and some localized flooding cannot be ruled out. Many so grateful that this storm was not more severe. Of course, many saying this could just be a test run for the next potential storm that may be around the corner. Back to you.
You know, test runs notwithstanding, we'll take them one at a time. Certainly grateful that everybody along the Gulf seems to be doing all right now. That is a part of our country that has gone through, Lord knows, some pretty serious storms over the years. So thankful that Bertha at this point doesn't seem to have packed all that much of a punch. Of course, we're going to continue to keep a close eye on it. Julie Martin, meteorologist Julie Martin, you heard her forecast and her insight into Bertha earlier this afternoon, and Julie and the rest of the team keeping a close eye on it for you for as long as Bertha is doing her thing in the Gulf. We're going to turn to this now, though. New concerns about the future of oil and gas prices after Yemen-based Houthi rebels, backed by Iran, attacked 2 Saudi Arabian oil tankers in the Red Sea. NBC's Richard Engel is in Jerusalem with more on the ongoing conflict in the Middle East.
For the last 5 months, we've been talking about the Strait of Hormuz and how the U.S.-Iran war has been disrupting maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, which is critical for the flow of oil and gas. And right now, the strait is effectively closed as this war between the U.S. and Iran is escalating at the moment. But overnight, a new front opened up. According to a Yemeni militia group, they carried out 2 attacks on Saudi vessels. The attacks were condemned by Secretary of State Marco Rubio in the Red Sea. The Red Sea is to the west of the Strait of Hormuz, and it is responsible for the transport of a full 12% of all global trade. So this second front, which opened overnight, the Houthis said that they carried out this attack. The Houthis are backed by Iran in the spirit of an eye for an eye, has the possibility to disrupt not just the flow of oil and gas, but all global trade.
And we are taking you live now to Washington, D.C., where President Donald Trump has just begun remarks geared, we are told, towards something known as the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You see it on the banner behind him there. Ratepayer Protection Pledge, according to the White House, is an effort to cap price hikes due to data center energy and infrastructure requirements. Let's listen in right now.
Thus far, maybe someday there'll be something bigger than this, probably will. But I think up until this point, AI is probably the biggest thing anybody's ever seen. And whoever wins that race is probably going to win, period. And again, we're leading China, and we want to keep it that way. President Xi's coming over on September 24th. And we talked about it when I was over in Beijing. And we'll be talking about it again. But he was very impressed with the job we've done because ordinarily, they don't have any problem with electric. They build a lot of electric. They don't do environmental impact statements. They just say, you want electric? We'll build it. They don't use too many windmills. They make the windmills, but they don't use them. They do it the old-fashioned way in many ways. The United States never settles for second, and we don't under this administration. I can tell you that. You see that because we have the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. We live by the motto, America First. That's what's made us very strong, and we're leading China and all other countries by a lot in AI and just about every other category. including crypto. We want to stay in front in crypto. They'd love to take that over. So many other things they'd like to take over. They're highly competitive, if you haven't noticed. But thanks in part to this incredible technology boom, investments are pouring into the United States from all over the world. $19.2 trillion, creating hundreds of thousands of jobs. So think of it, $19.2 trillion in 12 months, okay? And the previous administration had less than $1 trillion in 4 years. I would say that's an improvement. Do I get credit for it? No. Get no credit. Think of that. It's a 19.2 in 12 months versus less than 1 in 4 years. It's hard to believe, right? But that's the way it is. No credit, but we just keep chugging along. But as I say, I get no credit for anything, and then I look around the Oval Office. I said, oh, but we're in the Oval Office. So I guess we do get credit. But less than 2 years ago, our country was dead. And I've had this said by so many leaders. They use the expression a little bit different sometimes, said differently, but meaning the same thing. They say, sir, less than 2 years ago, your country was dead, and now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world, and we are the hottest in the world. At the same time, we know that the data centers and AI are dramatically increasing the demand for electricity. It's only fair that the cost of building the new infrastructure required to meet this demand should be borne by the corporations themselves, not by the American consumers and the American patriots, American citizens. And I think everybody agrees to it. And actually, they really don't have a choice because there's no way of producing that kind of electricity, the kind you need, and they want to do it themselves. And honestly, they're coming up with some plans that are genius, just like they are. That's why earlier this year I introduced the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. Under this groundbreaking plan, America's largest tech companies have formally committed to fund or build all energy infrastructure required to meet the demand they are placing on the grid. So they're going to be funding all of those electric needs, and we're giving them the right to build their own power plants. Lee Zeldin is here. He's phenomenal, and he's getting it done quickly. And thank you. Stand up. Stand up. He is phenomenal. He's incredible. He's an MVP candidate, I will tell you. He is doing things at levels, and by the way, everything perfectly. He's totally into the environment, but he's getting things done in 2, 3, 4 weeks that used to take years and years. And people are getting their approvals, and they're building buildings. We're building more buildings now, plants, and all sorts of manufacturing capability that we've never done anywhere near it. Many, many times. And companies are pouring in. Toyota, the other day, as you know, announced that they're moving into our country from Mexico. They're going to be, I think, closing up a lot of their operation, maybe all of it in Mexico. They're moving to this country. We have we have more car plants being built now in the United States than at any time in history. And, you know, we went years before me. We went many years with no car plant being built. I mean, they wouldn't even think about building in this country. Now, we're the hot, same thing with chips. We'll have about 50% by the time this term is over. We're going to have probably 50% of the chip market. A year ago, when we began, we had no chip market. We had virtually none other than Intel. We had Intel. And we made a purchase of 10% of Intel. We got it for the right price. And we made approximately $72 billion on that deal. So it was good. Do I get credit for that one? No. I get no credit. None. So we did that, and we made a lot of great deals, I'll tell you. We keep it going, too. But Intel's been fantastic, one of the hottest companies anywhere in the country. And when we met them, they were really having very big difficulty. We worked with them. But the stock price has gone up many times. I think it's maybe the hottest or one of the hottest anywhere in the world. So that was an honor to do it. I love looking good. But we made a lot of money. We made, I guess, over $72 billion on that profit. They've also agreed to invest heavily in local communities where data centers are built, supporting job training and local services. They're really spending a tremendous amount of money. In other words, the governors in the room. You have great governors in this room. And these companies are spending tremendous amounts of money on the communities, the local communities. So I think it's important that we tell the local communities that, because other nations are trying to get us to slow down, and they're spending a lot of money on propaganda, on press, PR, trying to convince everybody that this isn't a positive thing. And if we don't do this, we're going to be left behind. And even communities compared to other communities. You have some communities that really want this. This isn't all negative stuff. You have communities that really want the data centers. And frankly, those are the smart communities, because it means tremendous numbers of jobs, very little actual disruption. And the ones that don't want it, the happiest people in the world are foreign countries, number one, and number two, other communities within our country, because they're begging for them to be there. And some of them are great communities, very, very forward-looking communities, very smart communities. Since I introduced this plan just a few months ago, more than 220 utilities, tech companies, state governments, and other partners have signed our ratepayer protection pledge. Electricity rates for 80% of the power distributed in America are now being kept in check by the plan. We have kept rates down, way down. We inherited the worst inflation in the history of America from the Biden administration. And as you know, last week it was announced that inflation is way down. It's down more than it's been in over 6 years. And other things are happening that are so fantastic. And when all these buildings, plants, factories that we're talking about start opening up, all I know is I'd like to be the next president, because I'm going to make somebody look very good. They're going to sit there and all this stuff is going to be opening, and they're going to be saying what a genius they are. That happened with Biden. I got cuts in medicine prices that statutorily took 2 or 3 years. And I got these tremendous cuts, and then they sat there and said, oh, yeah. They didn't even know where they came from. But I got them, and this is going to be a much bigger example. You have all these plants that are going to be opening up over the next 2 years, sooner, but 2 years. And somebody's going to look very, very smart, and I hope you remember me, because what we've done is something that nobody thought was possible. For example, Southern companies, Georgia Power has frozen base rates for households until 2029. Is anybody here from Georgia Power? Huh? There's a certain governor who's here. A certain governor who's here. Congratulations. Good job. That's a great job. I've heard about it. Congratulations to both, and it's fantastic. And Georgia, the revenue from Google's data center construction is allowing them to eliminate property taxes entirely. And that's what you call using it to your advantage. The numbers are so incredible. Nobody's ever seen. All my life, the biggest building in the whole world was the Pentagon. And you can fit 25 Pentagons into some of these buildings, 25. And if you happen to be a community, and there's very little disruption. They're just large. They go on for miles. And frankly, if you like certain types of things, they're incredible to look at, to see that we could do something like this. But they also throw off tremendous amounts of money for the community. And when you look at Georgia and you look at the revenue, think of that. Revenue from Google's data center construction is allowing them to eliminate all property taxes. Did you know that, Brian? That's not bad, right? So thank you very much. Great job. That's a great job. And you probably had some negative stuff, a little heat. Oh, we don't want a data center. Usually those are the people that actually want them, and they'd like you not to build them. Because you know what? If it doesn't go to you, and if it doesn't go to Georgia, as an example, it's going to go someplace else. And those people are very happy to get them, too, the smart people. American Electric Power now projects that their customers will enjoy as much as $16 billion in cost offsets for consumers thanks to their data center contracts. $16 billion. So think of that. That's cost offsets. In Iowa, Alliant Energy data center deals. Where are you, Alliant? Alliant, where are you? Are you here? Thank you. Data center deals are allowing them to freeze electric rates for consumers for at least 5 years. So your rates are going to stay the same or lower In Louisiana, there's a guy looks like he's from Louisiana to me. Public school teachers in so think of that, Richland Parish are getting as much as $50,000 in bonuses this year thanks to a $27 billion project by Meta that will also save local residents $2.6 billion on their electricity bills. Their electricity is going down in less than half. That's big stuff, Mr. Governor, right? You didn't have any doubt about it. Here's a governor doing a great job. We have some really great governors in this room. With the Ratepayer Protection Pledge, we're creating a fair deal for everybody. This is how we'll grow our economy, lower the cost of living, protect American consumers, and lead the world in AI and high tech, all at the same time. We want to lead the world. And it is said, if you come in second, you're going to be second overall, because there's never been anything big like this. There's never been any, like in Georgia, there's no other thing you can do to create numbers like you've created, Brian. Both of you, there's no other thing. You can do 100 different deals, 100. It is nothing close to what you've been able to do. And why? They put a big, gorgeous new plant in a certain location. Big deal. It's so incredibly positive. Unfortunately, there are some who would like to lead us down the opposite path. And I call them the radical left communists. They call them socialists, but these people are communists, actually more. I think it's a much more accurate term. Want to shut down all new development, kill our most successful industries, destroy hundreds of thousands of jobs, and surrender the AI race to China. And China, look, you know, I'm not blaming them. I have a lot of respect for them. I have a lot of respect for President Xi, but they represent China. We represent the United States of America. And they lobby against these things, and they spend money on it, and they want communities to reject them as much as possible because they'd like to be leading the race. But we're leading the race, and unless we're very foolish and, frankly, very stupid, we'll continue to lead the race. We have a nice lead. A lot of people didn't expect that was possible. Perhaps even worse, the radical left's plans would not lower your electricity bills, but they would actually increase them very substantially because you wouldn't have all of this money pouring in. You'd have American energy would be far more expensive, and regulating oil, natural gas, and clean, beautiful coal, it would be the end of all of it. It would be the end of all of it. It would be the end of, frankly, it would be the end of great success for our country because we've never had anything like what's happening right now. I call them the Democrats because their policies are so bad. Look, think of it. No men. We want no men in women's sports. Transgender, they want transgender for everybody. I call it transgender mutilization of your children for everybody. Open borders where the world can pour in, where prisons from all over the world are released into our country. And we've done a hell of a job in getting them out. Murderers, 11,888 murderers let into our country under the previous administration. We've gotten a lot of them out. We're getting the rest of them out fast. But the Democrats in Congress want less energy, not more. And if given the chance, they'd send your prices soaring and inflation skyrocketing, which is exactly what would happen if you had somebody else sitting in the position that I am right now. And just like we did with the Green New scam, where we were scammed. The whole country was, I wasn't scammed. I got it right from the beginning. I got it from the first minute when I heard this crap, you know. They were saying wind was so wonderful, except you couldn't watch your television. They wanted to watch the debate. Donald Trump against Sleepy Joe Biden. Nobody could watch it because the wind wasn't blowing. Remember that? Darling, we'd like to watch the debate tonight. I'm sorry, the wind isn't blowing. No, that's one of the great scams of all time, but, you know. If you dislike another country, let them keep building windmills. They are going down. People are finally figuring it out. But we're not going to let it happen to this country. We're going to use the kind of things that work, and they're working better than anybody ever thought possible. So experts have observed that the amount of energy a society produces is the single greatest indicator of its advancement as a civilization, its success as a country. Think of it when you think the amount of energy produced, Lee. So when you give those fast approvals, that's a positive thing. I want you to feel good. Yet instead of offering a positive version and vision for carrying American civilization to new heights, the radical left only wants to limit our energy consumption and rein in our American dreams. We have the American dream. Until we came along, we had a great first term. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country, and this economy will blow it away. We're doing very well against the Islamic Republic of Iran. We're doing extremely well. They would like to do something, but I say they're not ready yet. They need more of the same. They're not ready yet. They got some evil intentions. We cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. If we did all this that I'm talking about your data centers, isn't that important? When they start blowing away communities one by one, we cannot let them ever even think about having a nuclear weapon, and that's exactly what's happening. They'll never have a nuclear weapon. Under the And by the way, this should have been done by other. They've been saying 47 years now for about 3 years, but this should have been done for 50 years by other American presidents or other countries. Didn't have to be us, but it seems to. If we don't do it, nobody else is. But I will, and nobody else has the capability to do it either. We built, in my first term, the greatest military anywhere in the world, and we're using it a little more than I thought, but that's all right. We had Venezuela, that Chris is doing a fantastic job, and we've paid for the cost of that war many times over. We're taking millions and millions of barrels of oil, and it's going to Houston and Louisiana. You know that. You see those ships lined up. And again, we've paid for that many, many times over, and we have a great relationship with Venezuela. And the people are happy in Venezuela right now. They can't believe what's happened. We have the biggest companies, the biggest oil companies in the world going in and doing business like nobody ever thought possible. And we're taking some, we should, and they're taking some. And, you know, it's very interesting that they're making more money. Chris was showing me some numbers. They're making more money, Venezuela now, than they've ever made before. And we're making a lot, too. And I think we're entitled to that. So it was really something. We took that. It was a one-day war. It took one day. People said, oh, we're going to be tied up there forever. And here, you know, we were in Vietnam for 20 years, lost thousands and hundreds of thousands of lives, but thousands and thousands of lives. We were in Afghanistan for years. We were in all these wars that you heard about for years and years. We were, you know, I called them never-ending wars. Well, we're in for 4 months, and I had a very sad day yesterday. I went to Dover. 4 great American patriots killed. That's 18 in 2 wars, and 1 is too many, but it's 18, whereas in Vietnam we lost 200,000. We lost thousands and thousands in Afghanistan. We lost thousands in every war, the Korean War, thousands, and these wars all lasted for years. And we want to get it over with, and we want to do it right, but we have to do what we came to do, and that's we can't let these people, very violent people, we can't let them have what they want, which is nuclear weapons. It came from all of this success, came from innovation and ambition and drive. In this country, we build the future fearlessly and confidently so that America always will be strong, prosperous, and dominant. And the other thing we're going to add to that, we want to be free, and we're going to continue to be free as long as we're smart. And we can't be hoodwinked. We can't be taken advantage of by people that say you're going to have a free home, you're going to get free rent, everything's going to be free. What they don't say is a year later, everything is going to end up in squalor, destruction, and death, and also death for our country. So we have to stop the threat of the communist rhetoric that you're hearing right now, because these people, they don't act. I'm very happy a poll came out. It said they're highly educated, but doing very poorly. In other words, they're losers. They went to school, they got a good education, now they don't know what they're doing, so what they do is they complain about people like yourselves that have done so well. But we can't let the communist ideology we don't want to even think about it for this country. It would be terrible. So we're joined today by some of the people helping to do all of the things that I just talked about, putting the Ratepayer Protection Pledge into action. And here with us are Secretary of Energy Chris Wright, who's an outstanding person. Doug Burgum told me about Chris. I didn't know Chris. I wanted Doug to head up energy, and Doug said, no, there's one man that's better. Who? Chris Wright. I said, who the hell is that? Turned out to be this guy right over here. And he's turned out to be incredible, really incredible. He's running Venezuela. He's running a lot of, more than anybody has ever run before, I think we can say, Chris, right? He's doing a great job, so we appreciate it. Thank you. A friend of mine, the governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, popular guy, really smart, street smart and book smart, which is a rare combination, by the way. We have the governor of Nebraska, Jim Pillen, who's done a fantastic job. He's where's Jim? Is there any someplace? Where are you? Oh, hello, Jim. You're looking good. You don't change much. Thank you. You don't change much. How's Nebraska doing? Good? Do they still like Trump in Nebraska? I think so. Huh? We had a very good night 2 nights ago in a place called Arizona. We're 14 out of 14, and we're doing that kind of numbers in Nebraska. I think we're doing those numbers everywhere, and it's all based on common sense. You know, we're conservative, we're this, we're that, whatever you are. The most important thing is we're people of common sense. We want to have strong borders. We want to have good education. We want to have low taxes. We want to have a great military. We're people of common sense, and if you do that, you'll be very successful at politics. Governor of Idaho, Brad Little, thank you very much, Brad. Governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, thank you, Brian, great honor. Entergy CEO, Drew Marsh. Drew, thank you very much, Drew. Thank you, Drew. Great job you're doing. Southern Company CEO, Chris Womack. Chris, hi, there he is again, Chris. I didn't know that was your name. I just saw you. I said, that's a smart guy because you did that big job making people in Georgia rich, right? That's Meta President Dina Powell, who's been my friend. She was with me for 4 years in the White House. And I called up Mark. I said, you hired the right person. You got the right person. So great, Dina. We're proud of you. Columbia County Commission Chairman Doug Duncan. Doug, thank you, Doug. Congratulations, job well done. And Sheldon Jones of Louisiana's Richland Parish School District. And thank you very much. Good job. You know him, don't you? Huh? Thank you. I heard you're doing fantastically well. And again, Lee Zeldin, who's been so outstanding. So, thank you. So I want to just, I just want to leave you by saying that it's an honor to be here. I'm going over now to talk about various and sundry subjects. One is the Iran war, where, again, we're doing very well, very, very well. I would say better than anybody expected could be done. We've knocked out their Navy, their Air Force, all of their radar, most of their capability in terms of manufacturing. Their drones are down 84%. Their missiles are down 91%. And I had a newspaper say, they're in stronger position today than they were 4 months ago. No, that's not the truth. That's not right. I can't believe they're even allowed to say it. New York Times said, they're in stronger position today. They have no military. They have no Navy. They had 159 ships. Everyone's at the bottom of the sea. They had 212 airplanes. Everyone is gone. They have no radar. They have no anti-aircraft. They have no nothing other than they're mean and they're smart and they still have some capability. But 4 months ago, trust me, they were much, much stronger, okay? I want to give you the non-fake news. But we're going to do that, and we're going to then have the Dodgers, the World Championship Dodgers are going to be over at the White House. They're going to be waiting. And I'll meet a man who's just about the best pitcher in baseball and just about the best hitter in baseball and just about the best fielder in the outfield in baseball. And needless to say, I guess he had a game where he pitched a almost perfect game, and he had 2 or 3 home runs in that game, and they said it was probably, I said, you know, never seen that. Only Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth was a great pitcher, and he was a great hitter. But even the Babe didn't throw a one-hitter and hit 3 home runs, which would make it, I would imagine, about the greatest game ever played. So we're going to meet him and all of the people of the Dodgers. They won the World Championship, and we see the champions, the Super Bowl champions, and the baseball and basketball, all of them. they like to come over to the White House. We're going to have a little thing in a few minutes. But I want to just thank everybody, and we're really talking about the ratepayer protection plan. To me is very important, because you have to convince your community how great these things. You can't fight it. You have to go with it. And you're going to have all that protection, and we're giving you automatic protection. But you're going to make a tremendous amount of money. You're going to reduce taxes, and you're going to have something that if you don't have it, everybody else wants it. So these are the smartest people. Most of you in this room, we have a couple probably on the other side of things. They disagree, but I don't know how they can disagree. Your community and your state's going to become rich, and there's very little disruption. And again, if you don't take all that money, somebody else is going to take it. You might as well do it yourself. So it's an honor to be with you, and maybe I'll let Chris and Lee and the group and Jeff and Brian, everybody just take over, have a good free-for-all, and figure it out. And if you have any problems, I'll come right back and I'll straighten those problems out, okay? Thank you. Great job. Thank you.
All right, we've been listening in live. You see there President Donald Trump wrapping up his remarks. And as the camera zooms out, you can see Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. They're shaking President Donald Trump's hand. Governor Kemp, one of a number of governors in attendance at this event, this ratepayer protection pledge event, where the president detailed his plan, his proposal to limit the amount of increased power rates and increased rates generally caused by data center expansion and construction around the country. That event took place at the EPA and has just concluded. We're going to turn to this now, other business in Washington, D.C. The United States Senate failed to pass an Iran war powers resolution today for the 12th time. It only needed a simple majority to pass, but it fell just short, 49 to 47. Republican Senator Susan Collins joined Democrats in supporting the measure, while Democratic Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania sided with Republicans. Had it passed, the resolution would have directed the president to remove the United States Armed Forces from hostilities within or against Iran unless explicitly authorized by a declaration of war or a specific authorization for use of military force. The House did pass its own war powers resolution in a 214 to 208 vote. House Democrats, they emphasize that they are making a politically popular choice, they say, in voting repeatedly to rein in President Donald Trump's authorities in Iran as the war drags on ahead of the midterm elections. That's the argument made by many congressional Democrats. Here is what Democratic Vermont Congresswoman Becca Balint said about it earlier today.
So look, I don't think we need to use it because the public is already completely against this war. It's not as if we have to convince them. In my home state, I am hearing directly from the families of National Guard members who have been deployed, who are saying, what are we doing?
All right, a little bit of trouble hearing the Congresswoman there. We're going to work to get that audio sorted out. We want to play that for you. While we do, we're going to take a brief break. We'll be right back with much more. Hey, welcome back in. It is just shy of 3 o'clock on your Thursday afternoon. I'm Zach Merchant with you for another hour here, and we're going to bring in a friend of the show, Julie Martin, our meteorologist, always at the top of the hour, giving us an update on our forecast. How are we doing, Julie?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, we are doing okay. We are a little bit cooler than we have been the past several days, so that is good, but we do have the storms to contend with. We want to take you outside right now at 88 degrees over downtown. It feels like 96, so that humidity is still with us. That hasn't really left us all that much. Feeling like 96 downtown, 100 in Covington, 87 in Canton, and 86 in Blairsville. So the next 12 hours, we will see some scattered showers and storms through about 8 o'clock this evening or so. Starts to wind down, though, as we get into the later night hours. And those are going to be very similar to what we've been experiencing, those heavy downpours at times and some gusty winds. So your high temperatures today likely topping out at 89, so just about average. And we are watching a couple of weather components that are really going to be driving our weather over the next several days. So we have a front moving in from the north. That's a cold front. And then we have tropical Gulf moisture coming in behind Tropical Storm Bertha. And so that is enhancing our rain chances over the next couple of days. This is that setup. And there you see that the L on the screen, that is that cold front that will be sagging south and really kind of just stalling out over our area. And then Bertha off near Texas, actually over Texas now as of the latest advisory, overland once again. So moving to the west around 10 miles per hour, it has held together as a 45 mile per hour storm, which is kind of impressive. So still holding together for now, but it does look like it will weaken considerably as it moves overland tonight. And so Bertha will be no more. So isolated flash flooding there along the Gulf Coast still possible, especially in Texas. We do have a flood watch in effect in northwest Georgia that goes from Rome, Georgia, over toward, say, Bartow, Forsyth counties, and in the North Georgia mountain counties as well. And a slight risk of flooding for your Thursday just because of all of these ingredients coming together, if you will. So tonight, just expect some more scattered showers and storms. And then Friday morning, we actually, into the afternoon, have a better chance of getting shower and storm activity, about a 50% chance. On Saturday, things settle down a bit, but we still keep the rain chances around over the weekend. So rain over the next 3 days, in general, maybe an inch to an inch and a half for us. And then it does look like, as I mentioned, we'll see just a 30% chance of showers and storms over the weekend, with temperatures hovering right around that 90-degree mark. Then some changes as we head into next week. Now, we did get a new drought monitor today. Doesn't look a whole lot different, but the big changes here were really with those worst categories, the extreme and exceptional. There were some improvements across the southeast with those categories, and so that is certainly welcome news. All right, so taking a look, as I mentioned, those changes starting next Monday, we don't see any rain in the forecast, and temperatures, well, they're back up in the mid-90s.
Well, we like the lack of rain.
Yeah, there you go.
The temperatures are fine. Look, we'll deal with it.
Yeah, hot in toward the end of July. We're going toward the end of July.
Isn't
now.
that wild?
Almost August.
It's wicked. We're just tearing through this summer. Partly, I think, because we had so much good stuff going on.
We had the World Cup and everything.
Fun.
Yeah. So, hurricane season still chugging along. Bertha won't be Bertha anymore after tonight, but we will still get those remnants coming up in that rainfall.
Keeping a close eye on it for us as always, Julie. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to turn to this right now. There are neurological diseases. Neurological diseases, they often are not diagnosed until symptoms appear, and that comes after damage may have already begun. Now, researchers across the United States, they are studying new ways to detect these conditions much earlier with the hope of improving treatment and outcomes through early detection. Mandy Gaither explains.
It's the most complex part of the human body. This 3-pound organ helps you think, interpret senses, initiate movement, and control behavior. But there's still so much to learn about the brain and the disorders that affect it.
Brain disease is a massive hidden epidemic.
In the U.S., there are more than 600 neurological diseases and disorders being researched, including Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, stroke, and epilepsy.
We are able to treat the symptoms, the manifestations of the disease, but we are not able to stop the disease.
That's why the Cleveland Clinic Brain Study was launched in 2022. Healthy volunteers will be examined over the next 20 years. Researchers are analyzing blood samples, MRIs, and retina scans, says co-principal investigator Dr. Ahmad Najum.
So we can start to understand why and identify targets for diagnosis and treatment of these diseases.
The goal is to discover who is at risk, why some brains become diseased while others stay healthy, paving the way for early intervention, better treatments, and ultimately prevention.
Either keep building nursing homes to comfort people after brain disease takes hold, or invest in the research to prevent and cure these diseases.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Leaders in education, healthcare, science, and the arts, they came together today to explore how the arts can support brain development, mental health, and learning. 11Alive's Faith Jesse spoke with Dr. Anna Brown, head of school at the Howard School, which hosted the event. Here's that conversation.
First of all, Dr. Brown, I cannot believe we are about 2 weeks until kids are back in school. I feel like summer just flew by.
That's exactly right. Yes, here we go.
Here we go. Well, you all are very busy as parents and students are getting ready to return back to the classroom, the teachers as well. And you just held an event talking about Innovation Sprint, right? What does today's event mean for students? Can you explain that innovation that you all are working on when it comes to art and mental health? And what can this mean, especially for those students looking to head back into the classroom in just a couple weeks here?
This was an incredibly exciting event. We gathered this morning with scientists, researchers, clinicians, teachers, and artists. And this is a group of people who believe in the transformative power of the arts to bring about wellness, health, social cohesion, and in particular, improve learning outcomes for children who are neurodiverse, just like those at the Howard School.
Yeah. And art, as we all know, can play a huge role in this, especially when it comes to communication. Students that are still learning to communicate, those who are neurodivergent and those who are not, right? Can you talk about some of just the strategies and some of the things that you see are working for students when it comes to the arts and their learning?
Absolutely. So at the Howard School, all of our students have a language-based learning difference. And that means they may struggle to express what they're thinking and feeling in a way that the person next to them might not. It may mean that it's harder for them to hear and interpret language. And what the arts do is provide a powerful tool for these students to express, to share, to engage, and to communicate. So it really unlocks potential and opportunity for these learners.
What are some of the type of arts that the students are participating in to help them take in information and also express what they're feeling?
Absolutely. Today, for example, we had with us people from the Alliance Theater, so performing arts. We had people from the High Museum, so visual arts. We had guests from Infinity Village Lab, which is looking at AI and computer-based arts. We had guests from Autism Improvise, so they're looking at improvisational theater. So the art modalities that we use are unlimited in possibility.
Can you tell us, just kind of bring us to where you are at the Howard School and give us some of that feedback that you're hearing from both parents and the students when they're participating in these different art programs? What is that feedback like?
It is joyful and uplifting and energizing for students to have capacity for voice, for students to be fully present and have ownership and agency over what they want to say and how they want to be present in the world. It's something every child deserves. And the neurodivergent child, it's harder. The path is harder. And so what we do at the Howard School and through the use of the arts and with these incredible partners from this morning is we find those pathways. We work together to create that opportunity.
And of course, you all worked so hard to make this happen today. There's also still work that has to be done. What are some of the biggest things that are still needed when it comes to making sure that these students are supported?
Funding is a major thing that we need. We are, nonprofit agencies just across, be it in the arts, in the sciences, in the K through 12 educational space. That's a huge hurdle. It's a real challenge that we face. We are committed. This group of people today acknowledge this moment as a beginning. It is a movement to action, and our resolve is unwavering. So we will do this work, and we cannot wait to share it with the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia.
Absolutely. For any parents out there who might be navigating, or maybe they have, family friends who are navigating, they have a student who is neurodivergent, what is your advice or just a word to them as they navigate? Every experience is different. I should say that first. But as they, navigate to make sure that their child is getting the best support in school, maybe they don't have the answers. What's your advice to them?
My advice to them is keep going. Don't give up. At the Howard School, what we say is no child is broken. We are not fixing children. We are celebrating these children exactly as they are, for who they are and how they are. And what we will do is transform the school environment, the learning space, to greet these children where they are, to then open up all of the learning of which they're capable. And so to these parents, I would say, find your people, find the school that supports you and cares for you, and connect with that, stay engaged with that. We're out there.
I absolutely love that. Well, Dr. Brown, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise and giving us some insight. Is there a place where parents can go for more information?
Absolutely. Please visit our website, howardschool.org. Please feel free to come by campus at any time, and keep your eye out across Atlanta for all of the NeuroArts initiatives that are going on.
All right, 3:12 is your time right now on this Thursday afternoon. We're going to go to a brief break. We'll be right back with much more. We're taking you live right now back to Washington, D.C., where Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is speaking.
Because it's so hard fighting through, some of the negative press and some of the, anti-AI, anti-data center, really anti-everything groups that are out there, but just to simply tell people the truth. And in Georgia, we're very excited to have the first 2 new nuclear reactors in over 30 years. Georgia Power right now is increasing their capacity over 50%, and they're going to do that in just the next 5 or 6 years to make sure that we're supplying energy for the customers that are coming to our state. But the best thing is, as our power generation is going up, our rates are going down. And I've got a great chart I'm going to leave you with, Mr. Secretary, but that little blue dot right there in the southeast, somebody sent me this chart yesterday, and it really is talking about the burden on the ratepayer, and it's tracking their household income and then what the burden of utility rates are. And a lot of my fellow governors that are up here with me and some of the other Republicans that are not, they're all in states where they're doing exactly what we're talking about here today. And we've been fortunate to be doing that in Georgia for a while now, either freezing rates, now lowering rates. And I believe we'll be able to keep lowering rates as we continue to have this data center, large load manufacturing plants like the Hyundai Meta plant, the expansion at Kia, a lot of large manufacturers that's creating great paying jobs with great paying benefits for hardworking Georgians. And that's why we're doing this. And it's also helping our local communities. And I know Doug and Chris will be able to talk about that. So this is a great day. And I agree with Governor Landry. We cannot let China win this race. And that's what some people want. And it's very important for us to continue, especially in my eyes, is to have, you know, a mixed use of energy in our state. We've got nuclear, we've got coal, we've got gas, we've got hydro, and we're going to continue to do everything that we can to supply our customers. And we're very excited to be able to tell the story and honored to be here today. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Governor Kemp. Great leadership. We'll turn it over now to Southern Company CEO Chris Womack.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. EPA Administrator Zeldin, Governor Kemp, and the other governors, it's indeed a pleasure to be here. A lot has been said, but let me say a couple things very quickly. We are thrilled to sign the Ratepayer Protection Pledge because we're in this incredible moment here in this country where we're going through this technology revolution, and it's going to be important about how we manage the power resources. The Ratepayer Protection Pledge aligns with how we view, how we work with data centers, how we work with hyperscalers to make sure that we're reinvesting in the grid at the same time, providing rate stability for the families and the businesses and the communities that we are privileged to serve. I mean, as we think about it, we look at, and the president talked about it, President Trump talked about it, with the work that we're doing and the revenue we're getting from the data centers, we're able to freeze rates through the latter part of this decade. And so on a nominal basis, you're seeing actually rates go down. And in Georgia, you're seeing rates go down, bills being lowered by some $1.6 billion. And then if you look across over the next 30 years, and because of a loan we got working with DOE, with Secretary Wright, with Deputy Secretary Danley, we're seeing reductions of some $7 billion in costs to customers as we make additional investments in the grid, as we improve reliability, but we're also improving resiliency while we're also building the new generation that the governor talked about to meet this growing need. The president talked about it, and Governor Kemp also touched on it. We all have got to do a much better job of fighting and telling the truth about data centers and confronting the misinformation that we see all across the marketplace. You know, I see in places, and I grew up in rural South Alabama, and there's a county not far from me, less than 80% of the residents have access to public sewer. There's a big data center project there now that is being opposed. There's a great battle. If this data center shows up there, there are things like public sewer that could be made available. And so we have to make sure that we talk about data centers are not raising electricity prices because how we're managing this work. More importantly, talking about the positive benefits, the positive attributes that these facilities can bring to communities. If we do this, as we seek to win the AI race, we must also make sure that we protect customers, but also do the right things for our communities. That's the opportunity that's in front of us, and we all working together must seize this wonderful opportunity, must seize this moment that's in front of us, and we look forward to working with each one of you. Thanks, Mr. Secretary.
Thanks so much, Chris. And now we'll go to Columbia County Commissioner Doug Duncan, who can tell us the story on the ground.
Thank you, Secretary Wright.
And as we continue to listen into this Ratepayer Protection Pledge event in Washington, D.C., you just heard from Georgia Governor Brian Kemp and then Chris Womack, who was the last speaker there. Before we jumped in, Chris Womack, the CEO of Southern Company. Probably sounds familiar. That's the parent company of Georgia Power. We're going to take a brief break right now. We'll be right back with much more. Taking you live back now to Capitol Hill. Earlier today, you heard from President Donald Trump, of course, a Republican. Now you're going to hear from Senator Adam Schiff, who is a Democrat, speaking right now on the Senate floor.
Investment from an Abu Dhabi state fund in the Trump coin, then by building it into the exchange's own trading systems. And for that, the Trump family earns interest on every dollar used. And the founder of Binance, what did he get out of it? Well, he'd been convicted of money laundering crimes. He was facing the consequences until last October when the president pardoned him. A foreign-funded boost to the family business repaid with a presidential pardon. The cost of this corruption? Crooked deals to benefit convicted fraudsters. U.S. foreign policy for sale to the highest Gulf bidder. Less time, attention, and resources of the country focused on bringing down your costs, improving your quality of life, bringing back prosperity to America. Which takes us, ladies and gentlemen, to number one, the crown jewel. The president, his IRS settlement, and the $1.7 billion slush fund. So here's the scheme. And you have to give the president credit for its audacity. The president sues the IRS, an agency run by one of his employees, one of his appointees, and represented by the Department of Justice, also run by one of his appointees. His lawyers bring the suit, and his lawyers defend the suit. He is functionally suing himself. And he, not surprisingly, settles with himself for a staggering amount. He gets an IRS get-out-of-jail-free card. He faces no audit or investigations for any prior tax fraud or underpayment that he, his kids, his businesses, or his associates have ever made or participated in, a deal estimated to be worth up to $100 million for the Trump family. Personally. It is a sham settlement, castigated by a federal judge as based on a suit brought wholly for an improper purpose, and a settlement that was the product of the worst form of collusion and self-dealing. But that is just the start. The $100 million tax get-out-of-jail-free card, only a start. The settlement also purports to give the president control over $1.776 billion of taxpayer money, which he gets to use as a personal slush fund to compensate his friends and allies who claimed that they have been wronged. Included among the aggrieved, people who violently attacked law enforcement officers on January 6th. Now, these people who attacked police officers on January 6th, they already got pardoned by the president on his first day. But that wasn't enough for them or for the president. They want to be paid for their acts of insurrection, and the president is willing to pay them with your tax dollars. Imagine your tax dollars going to pay cop beaters. And besides the morally repugnant nature of that slush fund and its beneficiaries, it comes at a huge cost. He wants nearly $2 billion of your money, your tax dollars, to fund this cop beater program. Not to serve the public, but as a pot of money he controls, to pay out to the people loyal to him, willing to use violence for him. Congress and the courts have compelled Trump's acting attorney general to back off the fund for now, but not the president. He still wants to make the payoffs to his cronies and enablers, and the administration is looking for other ways to loot the Treasury for the same purpose, using other funds of the Department of Justice. Taxpayer money converted into personal patronage for the president. There is a word for governments that take public money and hand it to their friends, and it is not republic. The cost of this corruption, incalculable. Besides misappropriating billions of your money, it is also rewarding people seeking to overturn a free and fair election. If it succeeds in encouraging others to do so in the next election, the cost to you just may be our whole democracy. So let's add it up. Overseas licensing, $23 million. Media lawsuits, $36 million. Big tech settlements, $60 million. Amazon and Melania, $40 million. The meme coin, $635 million. The White House ballroom, $600 million. The Qatari jet, $400 million. Big Law, $940 million. World Liberty Financial, $1.5 billion and counting. The IRS giveaway and slush fund, $1.7 billion and $100 million, for a grand total of $6 billion. And that, fellow Americans, is just the top 10. That doesn't include the Trump wine sold at the Coast Guard exchanges. It doesn't include Don Jr.'s executive branch club. It doesn't include the Trump resort in Qatar or the Trump hotel in Belgrade. It doesn't include Don Jr.'s $2.6 million in a drone company that just got, coincidentally, landed an Army contract. And it doesn't even include all the stock trades of the president. The president's own filing shows 3,642 trades in just the first 3 months of the year. 58 trades every single market day. Up to $750 million worth of trades. Think about that. The man who's supposed to be running the country, instead he's running a trading desk. And what a trader he is. He bought NVIDIA stock on January 6th of this year, and 1 week later, his Commerce Department approved NVIDIA chip sales to China. A $50 billion opportunity for the company. He bought more NVIDIA in February. A week later, NVIDIA announced a blockbuster deal with Meta. What are the odds, trade after trade, perfectly timed to decisions only his government knew were coming? And these are only the deals that we know about. No one put this historic level of corruption in perspective better than the vice president, J.D. Vance, who recently told a crowd that if Watergate took place today, it would be a 12-hour story. Think about that for a moment. If the president broke into the Democratic Party headquarters, bugged the place, used hush money to cover it up, used the CIA to thwart the FBI's investigation of it, lied to the country about it, J.D. Vance says that would be a mere blip on the screen for them today. He is telling us, the vice president is telling us, that the corruption of the Trump regime, his regime, is so pervasive, they have so successfully normalized it, that Nixon's behavior would seem quaint. Congratulations, JD. You've made the most egregious corruption commonplace. Well done. You should be so very proud. After Watergate, Congress passed a host of reforms to constrain a future corrupt president. They included limits on campaign finance, safeguards to wall off presidential misuse of the Justice Department, new oversight mechanisms for the intelligence community, offices of Inspector General to root out fraud, and much more. It now falls on us in this generation to usher in a whole new set of
3:30 your time right now on this Thursday afternoon, monitoring a busy day of developments right here in Metro Atlanta and all across the country. A lot coming out of Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. right now. We've been following along that EPA event, the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You see it's still ongoing, that meeting, in the upper right-hand side of your screen. Also monitoring floor speeches in the Senate right now. California Democrat Adam Schiff in the well speaking. You heard from President Donald Trump, obviously a Republican, earlier in this roughly last half hour as well. Busy day. It's going to keep rolling on. We're going to take a brief break. When we come back, a look at an 11Alive investigative report into an ICE detention facility here in Georgia. Hundreds of 911 calls are providing a rare glimpse inside Georgia's largest ICE detention center, one of the largest ICE detention centers here in Georgia. 11Alive investigates. Savannah Levins looks at what those records reveal and why advocates say the impact extends beyond the walls of Stewart Detention Center.
We have one female that has to go out. She's pregnant and she's getting the blood. We have 01 male that is unresponsive. He was found laying in a pool of blood.
These are some of the nearly 600 emergency calls we reviewed over the last several years from Stewart Detention Center, one of the nation's largest immigration detention facilities.
911 was your emergency.
The number of 911 calls from Stewart has steadily increased year over year, from 68 calls in 2022 to 187 last year.
We have a guy that hung himself in the cell.
The rise in calls coincides with a detainee population that's also increased, from about 1,100 in 2022 to more than 2,000 today. The calls also highlight the strain put on Stewart County's limited ambulance service.
We've only got one ambulance in Stewart County today.
And even the need to outsource help.
They're currently on a call. I'll have to see if I get mutual aid or it'll be an extended wait time.
Conversations between dispatch and first responders capturing the frustration.
It happens all the time, to the point where I don't have an ambulance for the, citizens of the county.
Whatever happens inside of the detention center, they're not getting the attention immediately that they need.
Amilcar Valencia is executive director of El Refugio, a nonprofit that provides lodging and support to people visiting loved ones detained at Stewart. He believes the calls reflect inadequate medical care inside the facility.
People say, I basically has to be dying in order to receive medical attention in this facility.
Core Civic, the private company that operates Stewart under contract with ICE, disputes that. The company says medical staff are present around the clock, adding detainees are seen by medical staff within 24 hours of receiving a sick call request and within 4 minutes for emergencies.
The medical was atrocious.
Godfrey Wade is a U.S. Army veteran who spent nearly 6 months at Stewart before being deported to Jamaica. He says his experience did not align with Core Civic's description.
It took almost 6 weeks for me to get a sick call slip through. I had a dental pain that I eventually lose the tooth when I came to Jamaica. It was that bad.
Wade acknowledges he received an intake health screening and saw a doctor 3 times while at Stewart, but he says securing that care was slow and unpredictable.
You're really at the mercy of how quickly they respond.
Core Civic says the 911 records we obtained show staff are appropriately escalating medical emergencies, not that care is inadequate.
Female that needs to go out, she's a pregnant female. She has severe vomiting and she has abdominal pain.
Some people might say, well, if it's so bad inside these facilities, why don't you just self-deport and pursue citizenship?
I think that's what this administration is trying to do. Either go or we will force you to leave. And in the process, we will take away your whole humanity. And when they are not treated with need or respect, we need to raise our voices.
All right, we are joined right now by 11Alive investigative reporter Savannah Levins. Savannah, thank you for your reporting. Thank you for being here. That was 3.5 minutes of really in-depth reporting. I've also read our web article, which is a lot more in there. What else should people know about this project, this reporting process that you've been on for quite some time now?
Yeah, you know what? I think what's really interesting, and we were talking about this before we went up on camera, but Georgia's one of the few states that allows you to access audio recordings of 911 calls. And there's certainly the debate in itself about that, but it has offered us the unique opportunity to really have a glimpse at what is going on inside facilities like Stewart. Of course, we have requested to go inside with our cameras for them to show us what's going on. We hear these different stories from detainees. We hear very different stories from agencies like DHS and companies like Core Civic that operate these facilities. So it's hard as a journalist to, independently corroborate what the truth is, and to what extent both sides' stories, align. So I think these don't lie. The 911 calls are coming directly from the mouths of the staff who are reporting real incidents. So I think that made this story particularly unique.
And you really underscored there. This is one of the best vantage points we have seen, certainly that I have seen, into the situation and the kind of healthcare state of play inside of this ICE detention facility or any other here in Georgia. You mentioned CoreCivic, which is the company that runs this detention facility. What all did they say to you?
A lot. So you mentioned the web article, they can go there. And it's interesting, too, because you sometimes would anticipate that these companies might be particularly tight-lipped, or that DHS would be. And honestly, DHS being the Department of Homeland Security. And in the past, like even under past administrations, they had been. But they've both been very open with me with this story and quite frank in their, rebuttals. Obviously, CoreCivic has said that they have someone on staff all the time, someone on call all the time. Now, it might not necessarily be a doctor there on staff all the time, but 11 to 7, I believe they said at least someone is there and then someone on call all the time. And they said that they respond to sick calls within 4 minutes, and sick forms, I should say. You heard Godfrey talk about like how they basically have to fill out a form and drop it in a box. Now, Godfrey says they don't get to it until the next day. He also said, you heard him say it took 6 weeks for him to get one. Well, CoreCivic says it's 4 days, I think, and then minutes, just minutes for emergencies. And now, again, we're hearing kind of different stories from some detainees we're talking about, but they say that it's, there's nothing wrong with what they have. And in fact, DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, said also that their medical that CoreCivic is providing at Stewart is better than most prisons in the United States. And they went as far as to say this is the best medical care a lot of these detainees will ever receive, let alone in any other country. So they say they're very proud of what they're offering.
And this really shines a light on something and a theme that it really goes along with almost all reporting on carceral institutions, whether it's a prison or a detention center for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It's very difficult to get inside and see what is really going on. Often when we're talking about the prison system, the Georgia Department of Corrections, for instance, what we learn about the state of play inside of their facilities often comes from litigation, and sometimes with ICE detention facilities as well. And now in your reporting through these 911 calls, another thing that came out in that story that really stood out to me, and I suspect it did to you as well, is the impact on the county.
Yeah.
You heard those recordings, a 911 operator audibly frustrated, saying effectively this is tying up the very few ambulance resources they have responding to calls at Stewart Detention Center and making it, from what he said in that recording, tough to get those ambulances to residents of the county.
I mean, anyone who's been down, Lumpkin, Stewart County, it's a small town. They don't have the capacity for that thing, that type of thing. CoreCivic said that, that is out of their control. And we know Stewart County has partnered with mutual aid to be able to call in help when they need it, because they do have 1 to 2 ambulances. That's it. And when you're seeing this, level of calls, and of course, like Stewart Detention, whether it was a normal prison or an immigration facility, like you're gonna get additional calls. You've got a population of, 2,000 plus staff. That's naturally going to happen. So, I do think it's been interesting to look at, and I think we'll follow up probably more potentially in a follow-up story about, how that is affecting EMS. But you hear the frustration in those calls. So yeah, I do think that's interesting. And Mr. Valencia also brought up the point that not only is that a burden on the taxpayers in that community, the citizens who might receive delayed care because of it, but also the detainees who may have to wait even longer for emergencies to be transported.
Has the situation there been exacerbated or grown more acute alongside the president's ramped up immigration enforcement push?
Well, we know the population, obviously has increased when you look back. I mean, I included it in the story, but, nearly doubled from today to 2022. So there is that. I think if you drop a population of 2,000 people into any community, that would, be a strain on that community's resources. And I do think that it has happened increasingly. There hasn't been a year, I would say, where it shot up, and obviously it continued to increase even when President Trump was not in office. So we were still seeing that those step increases and the population going up and the number of calls going up. But certainly, I mean, as there are more people, these incidents will continue to rise.
And are the detainees there? And you may not know this, but I'm curious if you do know, where are the detainees coming from? Are they all folks who are taken into custody here in Georgia and then transported to Stewart, or do they come from all over?
Not necessarily. I mean, a lot of them, were detained from Georgia, but we have seen DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, and ICE, moving them to different facilities. Like at one point, Godfrey Wade, the man we interviewed, was moved to Louisiana, stayed a couple months at that facility. They do that for a few different reasons. Some could be, housing limitations at current facilities and things like that. But no, not necessarily all Georgians.
All right, Savannah, we're a little short on time. I want to kind of give you the floor here. You work on these projects for a long time. I know you and everybody else in the special projects team really gets into the details before any story is published. What's the biggest takeaway that you have after going on this reporting journey here?
I think it's interesting. Something that Core Civic pointed out was that their rate of emergency calls is lower than what you would see in the general population, right? 700 calls to every 1,000 people is the national statistic, and for them it's 93 per 1,000 people. But if you look at how many calls in the general population are emergencies, true emergencies, that number is quite small. In fact, in Atlanta, they once said it was 3% of their calls were actual emergencies, whereas what we're looking at, these are emergent situations. These are calls coming from staff, medical staff and otherwise. They're not detainees. I've seen some of the comments today, people saying, well, the detainees are just calling and holding up the lines. They don't have that access. These are medical professionals calling in for help. So I think that is important to understand. And again, just the glimpse that we're getting into some of the issues that they don't feel they can handle medically there on site and how that impacts surrounding communities. Because of course, we're not just talking about Stewart. Where this is happening in one place, it may be happening in others.
All right, investigative reporter Savannah Levins, thank you very much. You just saw her story here. If you want to watch it later or read more, you heard us talking about the web article online right now, 11alive.com. It's a good one. It's worth reading in its entirety. Stay with us. Much more to come. We'll be right back. Welcome back in. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt today took questions from the White House Press Corps about ongoing international relations with Saudi Arabia. In a post on social media today, the president said a new U.S.-Saudi nuclear deal is, quote, totally subject, end quote, to Saudi Arabia signing on to the Abraham Accords. The Accords were an effort by the administration to normalize relations between Israel and Muslim-majority nations in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia has so far refused to join the Accords. During this afternoon's briefing, Leavitt was asked about the president's comments.
Look, this is a condition that the president has spoken about many times with our Gulf and Arab allies. He wants to see these countries sign the Abraham Accord. It was one of the most historic accomplishments of his first term, and it continues to be a long-term goal of his to expand those accords to ultimately come to a place where the Middle East can be a peaceful and stable region. And yes, this deal with Saudi Arabia, the energy deal, is contingent on this condition as far as the president is concerned. So we'll continue to talk with our Saudi counterparts to get the deal finalized and hopefully see them joining the Abraham Accords very soon. Thank you. Well, again, this agreement is still being worked out. It will eventually, hopefully, be finalized with the condition that the president spoke about this morning. But this agreement in particular, as it's been discussed thus far, does give priority access for American companies in the Saudi nuclear energy program, which will ultimately benefit American industry workers and supply chains. So the deal that has been discussed thus far and will continue to be discussed absolutely puts America first, and that's obviously very important to this president.
Caroline, thank you. With regards to the Saudi nuclear deal, why was that condition not mentioned yesterday when the Energy Secretary announced it?
Well, look, the president is always the final deal maker, as you know, and this is something that he has mentioned on numerous occasions going back. I can provide you with those statements, and he has said if they don't join the Abraham Accords, the deal is off. So we'll continue to have those conversations with our Saudi counterparts moving forward.
So the deal is dead if Saudi Arabia doesn't join. And have you any indication that Saudi Arabia is even considering this?
Again, the president has spoken directly with the Saudis about this in numerous conversations in the past, and the administration will continue to engage in those conversations.
Today, the United States Senate failed to pass an Iran war powers resolution for the 12th time. It only needed a simple majority vote to pass, but it fell just short, 49-47. Republican Senator Susan Collins joined Democrats in supporting the measure, while Democratic Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania sided with Republicans. Had it passed, the resolution would have directed the president to remove the United States Armed Forces from hostilities within or against Iran unless explicitly authorized by a declaration of war or a specific authorization for use of military force. Now, the House did pass its own war powers resolution in a 214 to 208 vote. House Democrats emphasized that they are making what they see as a politically popular choice in voting repeatedly to rein in President Donald Trump's authorities in Iran as the war drags on ahead of the midterm elections. That is the perspective of many congressional Democrats. Here's what Democratic Vermont Congresswoman Becca Balint said about it earlier today.
So look, I sit on the Budget Committee. We get lectured all of the time by these supposed fiscal hawks. And then every single time they grandstand, they do a little dance on the floor that they're actually going to stand up to the debt and increasing the deficit, and then they fold every time like a cheap fan. I'm so sick of being lectured by them. When you look at the track record of Democratic administrations over the last 100 years, the Democratic administrations bring down the debt, bring down the deficit, and then you have a Republican that comes in and balloons it, and you've got people in here who say they're fiscal hawks who fold every time. I'm tired of it.
Congresswoman, obviously Republicans and the president, their polling is not great, but the Democratic brand as a poll is not exactly glowing. Why do you think that is, and how do you all change that?
So I think about this a lot, and I think some of it has to do with the way that we show up with our constituents and with people across the aisle. And one of the things that is so important to me, and I come to this as a teacher. I taught in 4 different rural public schools in Vermont. Everyone who comes in with their own experiences, their own backgrounds, we have to listen first and talk second. And I don't think that's something that we over time have done, that we sometimes show up as if we're the smartest people in the room and that we have the plan. Sometimes the most important thing is to let people know we understand the struggles that you are going through, and we are going to do everything that we can to address those. And Republicans, they kick our ass when it comes to running for office because they run in headlines. They don't necessarily have anything to back it up. They don't have the 5-point plan. They run in headlines. We run in footnotes, and we have to stop doing that.
Congresswoman, August 3rd, that's a big time for campaigning. Obviously, you're in a blue state, but what are you encouraging your colleagues who may be in more vulnerable districts to message?
I want them to go everywhere around their district. I want them to go to places that they think they don't have a stronghold. When I came out of the second Trump election, I sat down with my team and I said, okay, in Vermont, I want us to have town halls in places that didn't necessarily support the Democratic nominee. I want to go to those places that are much more red or purple and show up for them. We cannot write off huge swaths of the country and our districts. You got to be everywhere, and it's going to be a sprint to the finish. We can't assume just because the president's poll numbers are down and Republicans don't have anything really positive to run on. They're running as far as they can away from the one big beautiful bill. They keep changing the name of it. They know it's not popular. So we have to make the case for them that we're willing to go anywhere and listen to anyone, and we can't keep cleaving off voters saying they're not gettable. People are hurting right now, and we have to give voice to that, and we have to give them real solutions, and then we have to deliver.
Congresswoman, the NDA passed along with the CR, and now the blueprint for reconciliation. Give us your thoughts on the blueprint for the reconciliation.
I wish I could, but if I don't go back inside, the whip is going to have my hide, okay? Thank you.
All right, there you have it. That press gaggle on the Capitol steps from earlier today with the Vermont Democratic Congresswoman. We're running low on time here with you this afternoon. And what is it? We always say it because it's always true. Been a very busy day of news right here in Metro Atlanta and all across the country. A lot of politics today, a lot of politics yesterday as well, if you're with us in the afternoon. Yesterday, of course, President Donald Trump was in town here in Georgia visiting Wheeler High School in Cobb County, delivering what effectively was about an 80-minute campaign rally. Today, you heard from the president again at that EPA event on the Ratepayer Protection Pledge, where you also heard from Georgia's Republican Governor, Brian Kemp, and the CEO, the Southern Company, which is the parent company of Georgia Power. Also heard from Democrats today, including the Vermont Congresswoman there and the Democratic California Senator Adam Schiff. That's what we do here. We follow the news as it develops right alongside you and make sure you hear from everybody all across the political spectrum. We're going to turn it over now. 11Alive News at 4 is about to kick off in less than 120 seconds. We'll see you there.